the specter of nuclear conflict looms large in contemporary discourse, a constant reminder of humanity's potential self-destruction. The mere mention of nuclear threats can evoke fear and uncertainty, forging an awareness of the gravity that surrounds these topics. This book delves into these issues, seeking to inform and engage readers on matters critical to global stability and human survival. Nuclear weapons, ever since their inception, have presented a paradox. They are simultaneously a deterrent and a threat. Their existence is woven into the intricate tapestry of geopolitical affairs, impacting nations and individuals alike. It's not merely about the weapons themselves, but the political, social, and ethical dimensions that surround them. This book aims to unravel these complexities, offering a thoughtful examination of the many layers involved. The exploration begins with the historical context of nuclear tensions, painting a picture of their evolution over time. We'll then traverse through the heart of nuclear deterrence, examining principles that have both prevented and fueled conflicts, vulnerabilities in national security, and the hypothetical scenarios of a first strike further underscore the precarious nature of our world. Each chapter challenges readers to consider not just the immediate implications, but the long-term consequences as well. Through these pages, you'll find a narrative that does not just inform but also seeks to evoke empathy and understanding. It addresses the human aspect, recognizing the widespread impact such crises could have on civilians, ecosystems, and even the global economy. More than just presenting facts, the aim is to provoke thoughtful reflection and conversation about what can be done to prevent the unimaginable. By the end of this journey, it's hoped that readers will not only grasp the intricacies of nuclear threats but also feel empowered to contribute to preventive strategies and diplomacy. Education and awareness are frontline defenses in this battle, and each individual's understanding and engagement are crucial. This introduction merely scratches the surface of what lies ahead. Prepare to explore a world where technological advancements merge with international diplomacy, where economic strategies intertwine with humanitarian concerns, all through the lens of nuclear threats. The stakes are high, but together, through knowledge and proactive preparedness, a safer future can be envisioned. Chapter 1. Historical Context of Nuclear Tensions. The dawn of the nuclear age was not just a leap in technological achievement, but a pivot in global dynamics that forever altered the fabric of international relations. When the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, the world witnessed the devastating power of nuclear weapons. This action didn't just bring an abrupt end to World War II, it marked the beginning of a new era characterized by fear, power struggles, and diplomatic brinkmanship under a nuclear shadow. As countries began to realize the catastrophic potential of nuclear armament, a complex web of alliances and hostilities emerged. The Cold War era saw the United States and the Soviet Union locked in a precarious balance of power. Each side amassed a formidable arsenal, turning the world into a nuclear chessboard where moves had to be calculated with unparalleled caution. This period of tension wasn't just about stockpiling weapons, but about leveraging them without ever pressing the button. The theory of deterrence reigned supreme, dictating that the mere presence of these weapons could ensure peace through the threat of mutual destruction. Fast forward to today, the nuclear landscape includes multiple players like China, India, and Pakistan, each bringing its own set of challenges and dynamics to an already volatile mix. Treaties like the Non-Proliferation Treaty aim to limit the spread of nuclear weapons, yet new threats have emerged from non-state actors and rogue nations, further complicating the global landscape. Understanding this evolution is crucial. It bridges the gap between history and current affairs, informing the strategies we use to navigate a world where nuclear tensions remain a significant concern. In this intricate geopolitical tapestry, it's not just the weapons themselves that matter, but the political, cultural, and historical contexts that have shaped their role. As we explore these elements, we begin to understand why nations act as they do and the potential pathways to ensure that nuclear tensions don't escalate into nuclear catastrophes. Evolution of global nuclear arms. The story of nuclear arms begins in the crucible of World War II, where the quest for a powerful deterrent led to the birth of the atomic bomb. In this early stage, only a few nations had the capability or resources to develop nuclear weapons. The United States, having dropped the first and only nuclear bombs used in war on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, stood at the forefront. These initial acts of destruction marked a significant turning point, setting off a global race for nuclear supremacy that has continued to redefine international relations. As the Cold War emerged from the ashes of WWII, the rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union fueled a relentless arms race. During this tense period, the concept of mutually assured destruction became entrenched in the doctrine of both superpowers. The sheer stockpiling of nuclear arms by these nations reached unfathomable intensities. By the 1960s, both countries had thousands of warheads, with capabilities for deployment via land, sea, and air, making the threat of nuclear annihilation ever present. This era was marked not just by technological advancements but also by the gravity of diplomatic negotiations, such as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty NEPT of 1968. Yet, adherence to disarmament remained a contentious issue. While the main spotlight was on these two superpowers, other nations quietly entered the nuclear arena. Countries like the United Kingdom, France, and China emerged as nuclear states, each driven by their own strategic motivations and regional dynamics. The landscape of global nuclear arms was no longer bipolar but increasingly complex. With the dissemination of knowledge, nuclear technology began to spread beyond these initial players, prompting a change in the international security architecture. Concerns mounted over the possibility of nuclear weapons falling into the hands of volatile states or non-state actors, scenarios that continue to haunt policymakers today. In the 21st century, the nuclear narrative shifted yet again. Nations like India and Pakistan acquired nuclear capabilities, introducing a new layer of regional tension, particularly in South Asia. Meanwhile, North Korea's determined efforts to develop nuclear weapons added another flashpoint in global nuclear politics, challenging existing deterrence strategies. These developments have made nuclear non-proliferation efforts more urgent yet more challenging, as they must address not just the traditional state actors, but also rogue elements. Technological advancements have also influenced the evolution of global nuclear arms. The pursuit of missile defense systems and new nuclear technologies, such as low-yield tactical nukes and hypersonic delivery vehicles, have added complexity to traditional deterrence models. These innovations raise critical questions about the future stability of nuclear deterrence, prompting debates about whether they make the world safer or more dangerous. In summary, from its inception in the mid-20th century to the multifaceted challenges of today, the evolution of global nuclear arms is marked by an interplay of innovation, rivalry, and diplomacy. It's a narrative shaped by human ingenuity and frailty, pushing us to continuously explore strategies for prevention and survival in a world where the threat of nuclear conflict looms large. Key players in modern nuclear politics. The landscape of modern nuclear politics is as complex as it is critical. The stage is set with prominent state actors wielding nuclear arsenals that could alter the face of global power dynamics. Each nation's interests are nuanced, shaped by historical legacies and current geopolitical aspirations. Understanding who these key players are today involves unearthing the strategic motivations that guide their nuclear policies. In the West, the United States stands as a central figure. It maintains a considerable nuclear stockpile and is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. The U.S. drives international norms against nuclear proliferation while balancing its deterrence strategies. Its alliances, particularly within NATO, are pivotal in shaping military strategies and nuclear policy coordination. Across the Atlantic, Russia holds a formidable position. Born from the ashes of the Soviet Union, its nuclear capability is both a symbol of its superpower status and a tool for asserting its foreign policy. Russia's large nuclear arsenal, coupled with strategic modernization programs, makes it a major influencer in nuclear politics. Tensions with the West often revolve around mutual suspicions and strategic military maneuvers. In Asia, China is rising as a significant nuclear power with strategic interests in expanding its influence and ensuring its territorial integrity. Its nuclear advancements are closely watched by the US and neighboring countries. China's approach is focused on maintaining a minimal deterrent posture while modernizing its forces, subtly shifting the regional balance of power. The Indian subcontinent presents a unique case with India and Pakistan, two countries with a history of conflict and political rivalry, both possessing nuclear weapons. Their contentious relations and the lack of robust communication channels raise substantial concerns about regional stability. These nations continue to develop their military capabilities amid mutual distrust, adding layers of complexity to nuclear politics in South Asia. The Middle East introduces Iran as a key player, whose nuclear ambitions have fueled diplomatic tension. Ongoing negotiations and international sanctions have yet to resolve concerns over Iran's nuclear program. The geopolitical implications of a nuclear-capable Iran extend beyond the region, affecting global security perspectives and potentially sparking a regional arms race. Furthermore, North Korea is an unpredictable element on the nuclear stage. Despite extensive international efforts to curb its nuclear ambitions through diplomacy and sanctions, North Korea has persisted in developing its nuclear capabilities. Its continued tests and advancements highlight the challenges in enforcing global non-proliferation norms and ensuring unity among international players. Finally, international organizations like the United Nations and the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) play crucial roles in monitoring and facilitating dialogue. These entities strive to implement and uphold global agreements like the Non-Proliferation Treaty (NEP), fostering an environment for diplomacy and cooperation amid widespread nuclear anxieties. Analyzing the interactions among these key players helps envisage potential pathways for diplomacy and deterrence. Each of these actors contributes uniquely to a geopolitical puzzle where nuclear politics intertwine with global security. Understanding their motivations and moves is essential for crafting strategies that aim at preparedness and prevention in a world fraught with nuclear challenges. Chapter 2. Understanding Nuclear Deterrence. Nuclear deterrence is rooted in the stark reality that the sheer destructive power of nuclear weapons acts as a powerful deterrent against their danger. At its core, the concept relies on the idea that no rational actor would initiate a conflict that could end in mutually assured destruction amid. This principle posits that the potential cost of a nuclear exchange is so high that it prevents countries from engaging in nuclear war, serving as a safeguard against escalation. The Cold War era provided a grim foundation for understanding deterrence. The nuclear standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union was characterized by a delicate balance. Both superpowers amassed vast arsenals to ensure that any initial strike by one would be met with an equally devastating response by the other. While this built a certain grim stability, the world also teetered continuously on the knife edge of annihilation. Critically, deterrence relies heavily on the perception of strength and the credibility of threats. It's not just about having the weapons, it's about convincing potential adversaries that you're willing to use them if needed. This dynamic has led nations to engage in military posturing, enhance nuclear capabilities, and invest heavily in technology to maintain credible deterrence. The key to deterrence is ensuring that all parties believe that the costs of engaging in nuclear conflict far outweigh any potential gains. However, nuclear deterrence isn't foolproof. History shows instances where deterrence has failed or nearly collapsed. The Cuban Missile Crisis is a poignant example. The world watched breathlessly as two nuclear giants approached the precipice. It was only through careful diplomacy and a genuine understanding of the stakes that a catastrophic event was averted. This period demonstrated both the nightmare of a deterrence breakdown and the sobering lesson that communication channels must remain open, even in times of high tension. The evolution of nuclear arsenals and the development of sophisticated delivery systems continue to challenge traditional notions of deterrence. Modern nuclear politics are more complex, with multiple countries possessing varying capabilities and unpredictable leaders. The principles of MAD must adapt to this multipolar reality, where emerging nuclear states could potentially destabilize existing power equilibriums. The global community now faces a paradox: how to deter new threats without sparking an arms race or increasing instability. Successes in nuclear deterrence are sometimes overlooked because they manifest as non-events. When wars don't occur or hostilities are diffused, deterrence is credited with maintaining peace. In contrast, its failures are stark, potentially catastrophic, and often serve as cautionary tales for future strategies. Despite these complexities, nuclear deterrence remains a central theme in the discourse on global security. It is a reminder of the voluntary restraint exercised by nations, a fragile guardian against the unimaginable devastation of nuclear war. Principles of mutually assured destruction. Within the intricate tapestry of global nuclear politics, the concept of mutually assured destruction (MAD) stands as a stark testament to humanity's struggle with power and fear. Emerging prominently during the Cold War, MAD is a military strategy that posits that a full-scale use of nuclear weapons by two or more opposing sides would result in the total annihilation of both the attacker and the defender. It hinges on a paradox. Nuclear weapons are maintained not to be used, but to ensure they never will be. This balance of terror, both unsettling and strangely stable, relies on the rational behavior of irrational threat. The principle is straightforward in essence yet complex in execution. At its core, MAD assumes that the sheer devastation unleashed by nuclear weapons would deter any rational actor from initiating a conflict, knowing it would inevitably lead to mutual destruction. This deterrence theory played a pivotal role in preventing nuclear warfare during several tense periods in the 20th century, notably the Cuban Missile Crisis. However, not everyone sees this doctrine as foolproof. Critics argue that it is a precarious balance resting on the assumption that all actors will remain rational and possess the same valuation rational. It requires that all parties involved are convinced of and adhere to the logic that their own survival depends on not acting aggressively. Furthermore, MAD involves maintaining a credible threat of retaliation, which means constant upgrades and readiness in nuclear arsenals, ensuring that counterattacks are always possible. This maintenance is resource-intensive and politically sensitive, as nations must often navigate public opinion that may bristle against the sustained presence of such destructive capabilities. Additionally, the principle does not account for human error or technological malfunctions inherent in the complex systems that operate nuclear arsenals. Miscommunication, misinterpretations, or accidental launches remain a very real risk. The potential for rogue actors gaining control over nuclear arsenals or the emergence of non-state actors with nuclear capabilities further complicates the security landscape. The dependence on MAD also stifles disarmament efforts. The paradox is that to diminish reliance on nuclear deterrence, trust must be increased among nations, which requires reducing arsenals. Yet each step toward reduction is burdened by the potential loss of credibility and power on the global stage, making disarmament a challenging endeavor without a surefire path to stability. Scenarios where the principles of MAD might fail are not relegated to fiction. Throughout history, there have been close calls and near misses that tested this doctrine. These incidents reflect both the fragility of international relations and the constant requirement for vigilance and communication to prevent catastrophic outcomes. The principles of MAD demand continuous and rigorous examination to adjust to evolving political landscapes and technological advancements. In the context of today's multipolar world, where new nuclear players emerge and technological advancements shift defense paradigms, the basic tenets of MAD require ongoing refinement and robust diplomatic efforts. The challenge lies not only in maintaining deterrence but concurrently moving towards strategic stability that could lessen the reliance on nuclear capabilities. Mutually assured destruction, while having played a role in preventing large-scale conflicts, reminds the world of the fragile equilibrium maintained through the threat of unimaginable devastation. As geopolitical landscapes shift, and with them the dynamics of power, the principles of MAD will continue to prompt debate on nuclear deterrence and the possibility of a future less reliant on fear as a stabilizing force. Failures and successes of deterrence. Nuclear deterrence, at its core, is a delicate balancing act between power and restraint. The principle rests on the notion that the threat of devastating retaliation prevents nations from deploying nuclear weapons in the first place. History has given us plenty of cases to study, where deterrence has either shored up peace or faltered perilously. One pivotal instance showing successful deterrence was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The world watched as the United States and the Soviet Union teetered on the brink of nuclear war. Yet, the logic of mutually assured destruction compelled both leaders to draw back, averting catastrophe. Yet, deterrence is not foolproof. The India-Pakistan conflict presents a vivid example of its limitations. Despite both nations possessing nuclear weapons, skirmishes and confrontations, such as the Kargil War in 1999, serve as stark reminders of how regional tensions can amplify nuclear risks. Deterrence didn't entirely prevent conflict. It merely altered its nature, pushing it to different arenas such as conventional military disputes and proxy battles. Another tale of failure in deterrence is North Korea's nuclear saga. For decades, global efforts aimed at deterring North Korea through sanctions and diplomatic isolation seemed ineffective. Instead of backing down, North Korea has persisted with its nuclear ambitions, showcasing that deterrence doesn't always sway nations determined to defend or assert themselves on the world stage. The regime's progress in nuclear and missile technology stands as an emblem of deterrence's limits. Success, on the other hand, can be subtle and take unexpected forms. The Cold War era demonstrated prolonged periods of peace among nuclear powers, arguably attributable to effective deterrence. The very possession of nuclear arsenals transformed potential conflicts into strategic dialogues. Through backdoor channels, treaties, and arms control agreements like the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, the specter of nuclear annihilation spurred collaborative efforts for de-escalation and stability. However, the effectiveness of deterrence hinges on the rationality of the actors involved. It assumes that nations will act logically to preserve their existence and avoid total destruction. But rationality is subjective, steeped in cultural, historical, and political contexts. This unpredictability leaves room for potential deterrence failures should leadership misjudge or pursue aggressive brinksmanship. Technological advances also tweak the deterrence equation. Nations now explore capabilities in cyber warfare, missile defense systems, and hypersonic weapons, which could erode the traditional principles of deterrence. The development and deployment of these technologies challenge the existing balance, urging strategic planners to rethink what deterrence means in the 21st century. The successes and failures of deterrence teach us a crucial lesson. It's a dynamic system, not a fail-safe. While preventing large-scale nuclear warfare remains a significant triumph, the world can't be complacent. Continued efforts in diplomacy, international cooperation, and arms control are vital in an age where the deterrent landscape is ever-changing. Understanding these successes and failures lays bare the complexities of nuclear strategy, revealing not just the technicalities of weapons and politics, but the underlying narratives that shape our world's quest for safety amidst existential threats. Chapter 3: Vulnerabilities in National Security. In the modern landscape of national defense, vulnerabilities have become an ever-looming specter. As nations escalate their nuclear capabilities, the cracks in protective strategies become increasingly evident. Notably, the balance of power that once gave countries a modicum of security now tilts precariously as new threats emerge. Though efforts have been made to bolster defenses, several limitations persist, leaving even the most fortified nations exposed. These vulnerabilities arise not only from external threats but also from inherent shortcomings within national defense systems themselves. One significant concern lies in the realm of cybersecurity. As defense systems grow more reliant on digital infrastructure, the risks of cyber attacks escalate. These threats have the potential to cripple essential systems, rendering traditional defenses ineffective. In recent years, such scenarios have transitioned from the realm of speculative fiction to realistic threats, challenging governments worldwide to adapt at an unprecedented pace. Additionally, the intricate geopolitical dynamics further complicate national security. Alliances shift and evolve, sometimes leading to unexpected collaborations or confrontations. In places where detente once held sway, the resurgence of aggressive postures can upset regional balances. This unpredictability makes planning robust security measures a daunting task. Nations find themselves navigating a complex web of diplomacy and power plays to protect their interests while ensuring global stability. Furthermore, defense limitations are compounded by technological advancements from rival nations, particularly those not bound by international treaties. The case of North Korea serves as a stark reminder of how underestimated adversaries can rapidly advance their capabilities, posing a significant threat. As borders of traditional defense blur, every technological leap by a nation enhances the urgency for a reevaluation of existing security strategies. Ultimately, addressing these vulnerabilities requires a multifaceted approach. It calls for international cooperation, continued innovation, and a commitment to adapt to unforeseeable challenges. The path forward is fraught with obstacles, yet it is imperative to persist in strengthening defenses to safeguard the future. The stakes have never been higher, and complacency is no longer an option. North Korea's advancements. In the intricate web of global security, North Korea serves as a focal point of unpredictability and tension. The nation's advancements in nuclear technology and missile capability have accelerated over recent years, painting a concerning picture for national security experts and world leaders alike. North Korea's journey from a fledgling nuclear entity to a recognized, albeit controversial, power on the global stage has impacted the strategic calculus of neighboring countries and the broader international community. North Korea has not only pursued nuclear armament but has also worked tirelessly to enhance the range and precision of its ballistic missile technology. These advancements are a signal of its strategic intentions to solidify its stance as a formidable adversary capable of reaching targets far beyond its immediate neighborhood, no longer constrained by outdated technology. North Korea's current arsenal reportedly includes intercontinental ballistic missiles (ICBMs) that can potentially reach the continental United States. The speed at which North Korea has enhanced its missile capabilities has been nothing short of astonishing, confounding many experts who underestimated the regime's technological and scientific prowess. Consequently, these developments have highlighted significant vulnerabilities in national security for many countries. Traditional missile defense systems, which might have sufficed a decade ago, are now being rigorously tested amid these advancements. Strategists are grappling with questions about missile detection, interception capabilities, and whether existing technologies can effectively neutralize the threat posed by North Korean missiles. The fear is that any miscalculation or delay in response could lead to devastating consequences, prompting a reevaluation of defense strategies worldwide. Moreover, North Korea's demonstrations of power are not merely military maneuvers but also serve as political statements. Each missile launch or nuclear test is a display of defiance, a carefully choreographed message aimed at reminding the world of its capabilities and resilience. This calculated unpredictability poses additional challenges for diplomatic efforts, as traditional carrot-and-stick approaches may lack efficacy with a regime that relishes operating outside the norms of international diplomacy. In this climate, the role of intelligence and surveillance has grown exponentially. Nations are investing heavily in understanding not just the how but also the why behind North Korea's accelerated advancements. What are the real goals of the regime? Is it merely seeking security for its sovereignty, or is there a broader strategy at play? These are the questions keeping analysts occupied, influencing policy decisions and the deployment of resources. Amid all this, the humanitarian dimension mustn't be overlooked. Sanctions and diplomatic isolation intended to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions have often had the unintended consequence of exacerbating the plight of its civilian population. Humanitarian aid organizations face dilemmas about how to support the people without strengthening the ruling regime. In summary, North Korea's advancements in nuclear and missile technology represent a multidimensional challenge that goes beyond mere military considerations. It's a test of how the world can adapt to new threats, balance defense with diplomacy, and address human rights within the framework of international security. As we move forward, understanding these dynamics will be crucial for crafting effective responses and ensuring the safety of future generations. U.S. defense limitations. When examining the vulnerabilities inherent within the national security framework, the limitations of the U.S. defense system present a multifaceted issue. On the surface, the United States is a powerhouse with unparalleled military capabilities. However, beneath this formidable facade lie constraints that could potentially hinder its effectiveness in a nuclear confrontation. It's crucial to unpack these limitations to fully understand the risks they pose. In the ongoing race for technological advancements, the U.S. faces the constant challenge of maintaining an edge. While America's military technology is perceived as advanced, adversaries are continuously evolving their own capabilities. This creates a dynamic tension wherein U.S. defenses must perpetually innovate, often at significant cost and time expenditure. The urgency to not just develop but also effectively integrate new technologies compels a perpetual state of catch-up. Consequently, this reactive posture may expose vulnerabilities, sometimes allowing adversaries to find and exploit gaps in the defensive network. Another critical concern is the decentralized nature of U.S. military command structures. While decentralization allows for flexibility and quick responses, it also introduces coordination complexities, especially during high-stress scenarios like a nuclear threat. Decision-making across diverse branches and domains requires flawless communication and execution, something that's increasingly challenging in the face of evolving nuclear capabilities worldwide. Such an intricate system could suffer delays or miscommunications, particularly if disrupted or overwhelmed by coordinated cyber threats. The human element within defense presents its own set of challenges. Training and readiness remain paramount for effective defense operations, yet they are perennially difficult to maintain at peak levels. Personnel must not only be well-versed in sophisticated systems, but also alert and prepared for the psychological toll of a potential nuclear crisis. The persistent pressure for proficiency can lead to burnout and errors, impacting defense readiness at crucial moments. Compounding these issues is the dependency on a vast supply chain encompassing highly specialized technologies and components. Any disruptions, be it from geopolitical tensions, natural disasters, or international trade barriers, can cause significant setbacks. This time lag could critically impair the nation's ability to promptly respond to a nuclear threat, highlighting the fragility of reliance on complex, extended supply lines. Budget constraints present yet another limitation. Despite significant defense spending, financial resources are finite and must be judiciously allocated across many areas, from personnel and maintenance to research and development. The need to prioritize can sometimes lead to crucial defense elements being underfunded or delayed, inadvertently creating additional vulnerabilities within the overall defense strategy. Lastly, the socio-political landscape plays an influential role. Defense policies are often subject to the prevailing political climate, with shifts potentially altering priorities and strategies. This variability can lead to inconsistencies in defense postures and preparedness levels. Decisions made from such a fluid foundation can either strengthen or undermine security readiness, a sharp contrast to adversaries who might operate under more consistent strategic imperatives. In understanding these limitations, it's essential to recognize that they do not undermine the effectiveness of U.S. defense entirely. Instead, they highlight areas that require ongoing attention and improvement. By identifying and addressing these vulnerabilities, the U.S. can better navigate the intricate landscape of modern nuclear threats, working to bolster not just its defense systems but also its resilience and adaptability. Chapter 4. The hypothetical first strike. Imagine standing on a crisp morning as a newscaster somberly breaks the news: a nuclear first strike has occurred. Governments the world over had long dreaded this moment, a scenario that would plunge nations into chaos and uncertainty. Foreseen in strategic war games and discussed in hushed voices behind closed doors, this hypothetical event suddenly felt all too real. The timeline of such a catastrophic first strike might unfold quicker than anyone would anticipate. In the initial phases, the launch of missiles would prompt a rapid-fire exchange of alerts among military command centers worldwide. High-ranking officials, trained to operate under immense pressure, would be thrust into action, their moves dictated by years of practice yet shadowed by the weight of real-world implications. Through the haze of confusion, speed and precision would become critical to mitigate further calamity. Different regions would experience varying degrees of devastation, largely dependent on their proximity to the strike zones and the strategic value of their targets. For military leaders, the challenge would lie not only in the immediate response but also in re-establishing communication networks crippled by electromagnetic pulses. Conventional control systems might crumble, leaving commanders scrambling to coordinate defenses with whatever means remained dressage. The corridors of power would undoubtedly find themselves on edge, an eerie quiet pervading as officials grappled with the reality of severed lines and shattered protocols. Leaders would huddle in underground bunkers, assessing damage reports and strategizing the next steps. Simultaneously, the logistical backbone tasked with ensuring the survival of military infrastructure would be put to the ultimate test, drawing from both experience and improvisation. Amid this turmoil, the primary concern would pivot to limiting escalations. In many ways, a first strike is not just a singular event but a potential prelude to further exchanges. As military units scrambled to regain operational capabilities, diplomats would work tirelessly to open channels for negotiations, hoping against hope to halt the slide into full-blown nuclear war. Such efforts would rely heavily on previously established lines of communication and mutual trust among world powers. The military command's response in this theoretical situation would also illuminate the complexities of modern defense systems. Despite advanced technologies designed to prevent unauthorized launches, human error, unforeseen technical failures, or sophisticated cyber attacks could still breach safeguards. As the dust settled, the reality of such vulnerabilities would demand a re-evaluation of defense protocols to prevent future breakdowns of this magnitude. At the heart of contemplating a hypothetical first strike is the realization that humanity's next steps remain pivotal. While the resilience of military infrastructure is crucial, it's equally imperative to harness this moment for reflection and reform. Could this darkest hour become a catalyst for change, forging stronger commitments to peace and collaboration? The unfolding narrative of a first strike serves as a grim yet powerful reminder of the stakes involved in nuclear diplomacy and the shared responsibility of averting disaster. The hypothetical first strike, timeline of events. When discussing the hypothetical first strike in a nuclear context, a tightly knit chain of events comes to the forefront, resembling a grim domino effect set in motion by a single destabilizing act. The timeline begins far from the battlefield in the shadowy corridors of intelligence networks. Often it is the result of misinformation or a breach in surveillance capabilities, which triggers a chain reaction that seems almost predestined once set into motion. In the initial moments, leaders of the nation perceived to be under threat are inundated with conflicting reports. It is these crucial seconds and minutes that define the path of escalation. Intelligence agencies rush to verify the origin and potential targets of the missile launch. Amidst the clamor, misinformation can lead to irreversible decisions, often swayed by the fear of being caught off guard. As geopolitical tensions mount, time seems to conspire against rational judgment, pushing nations to the brink of a catastrophic reaction. The next phase is a direct communication between world leaders, a final attempt to de-escalate, but the time available for such diplomacy is heartbreakingly short. Miscommunication or delays in these dialogues can cement the path toward conflict, as trust between nations erodes faster than a melting glacier. Political and military advisors play a crucial role here, analyzing strike probabilities and collateral damage statistics, attempting to forecast the apocalypse with grim precision. A few heartbeats after the initial launch is verified, automated retaliatory systems in place to ensure mutually assured destruction start warming up, ominously echoing the digital alerts across military command hubs worldwide. In this scenario, where decisions shrink to seconds, humanity finds itself cornered by its own ingenuity. These systems, designed both to protect and to deter, now loom large as harbingers of global calamity. Should the deterrence strategy fail, the timeline accelerates with alarming speed. Within minutes, military command structures from potentially targeted nations activate a full-spectrum defense protocol, including the mobilization of ballistic missile defense systems. These efforts, largely experimental in the face of a full-scale nuclear assault, represent a last-ditch attempt to minimize devastation. Yet, amid this technological sprint, human error lurks in every console button and data entry point. Simultaneously, at home and abroad, government officials convene in secretive, fortified locations, piecing together contingency plans crafted in shadowy briefs and covert simulations. Evacuation strategies for civilians might be implemented, albeit unevenly, given the scale and surprise nature of the strike. Panic starts to pulse through the civilian population as emergency alerts flash across screens, a grim testament to their precarious mortality. Internationally, the timeline expands as global organizations scramble to mediate. Uncertain alliances might fracture under the strain, while age-old enmities could theatrically underscore political calculations. Yet, in the heart of the storm, amidst the heated rivalries, there's a flicker of remarkable cooperation as nations desperately try to restrain the wrath they've unleashed. This thread of events, once firmly woven, captures not just the mechanics of a first strike scenario, but the profound existential dread that underpins nuclear geopolitics. And although hypothetical, each step along this timeline acts as a solemn reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of our current deterrence strategies. As humanity stands on this precipice, the hope remains that understanding this timeline will inspire a concerted effort toward prevention and preparedness. Impact on military command. The hypothetical first strike scenario sends ripples through the intricate web of military command. A strike of this nature introduces chaos not just externally but deep within military structures. Suddenly, the world of strategic planning, where every hypothetical threat isn't just anticipated but rigorously rehearsed, is hurled into real-time execution. In an instant, well-oiled command chains can become frayed, and decision-making processes must shift from theoretical models to life or death actions. In the flurry of those initial moments, communication lines that were thought infallible can fail. Equipment malfunctions and human error under pressure can lead to partial or complete breakdowns. Commanders find themselves battling not only an external aggressor but the need to maintain composure and operational efficiency amid potential information silos. When the stakes are the highest, even the most straightforward commands can become tangled in misunderstandings, precedents, and procedural adherence. Moreover, the psychological impact on military leaders can't be underestimated. Commanders are tasked with making decisions that could potentially alter the course of history while bearing the weight of potential personal moral conflict. The human aspect of military leadership, often reduced to numbers and tactics and strategic planning, becomes glaringly significant during these moments. The very essence of leadership is tested, requiring not just strategic acumen but empathy, clarity, and resilience under the immense and sudden weight of immediate threat. The pressure also extends to the coordination between different branches of the military, the integration between air, land, sea, and cyber units, all of which must work in seamless synchrony, faces an unprecedented test. Resources must be allocated not only swiftly but wisely, with leaders needing to anticipate secondary belligerent actions or misunderstandings that could exacerbate the conflict. A coherent response demands perfect timing and clarity of mission, calls that can be impacted by delayed orders and fragmented understanding of the operational picture. Personnel lower in the chain of command play pivotal roles too. The effectiveness of responses relies heavily on previously established training protocols and the trust placed in officers and subordinates. In the chaos of a first strike, decentralized command structures could become crucial, empowering local leaders to act with autonomy and speed. This, however, can only be effective if trust and clear lines of communication were established long before any crisis emerged. Yet, with all these challenges, military command through such a crisis also has transformative potential. Many officers are now trained not only in traditional warfare but in crisis management and adaptive leadership. The hypothetical first strike scenario, for all its dread, can illuminate pathways to innovations in military strategy and doctrine. Command strategies could evolve, introducing more fluid, adaptable tactics that anticipate and embrace uncertainty, fostering a new kind of preparedness against such unthinkable threats. The hypothetical first strike paints a vivid picture of the complexities faced by military command in the nuclear age. Each moment during a real event would be a test of preparedness, an assessment of human instinct meshed with cutting-edge technology, and a reflection on the importance of seasoned judgment. The real impact, however, would extend beyond the military's immediate responsibilities. It could redefine global doctrines and prompt a reconsideration of how war is waged and potentially prevented on this scale. Chapter 5. Immediate government response. In the event of a nuclear strike, the government's immediate response is crucial, often hinging on meticulously crafted emergency procedures. These protocols, primed for activation, are the backbone of ensuring national stability amidst chaos. Initial actions focus on assessing the situation accurately. Within moments, top officials, including the president, defense chiefs, and emergency management leaders, convene to decipher intelligence reports, examining the nature and extent of the attack. Decisions made during these critical early moments set the tone for the crisis management process that follows. One of the first priorities is communication, both with the public and between various government entities. This is where the challenges multiply. The complexity of modern communication systems serves both as an asset and a liability. Ensuring that messages are clear, timely, and reach those in need is an enormous task. Technologies meant to assist can sometimes hinder due to overloads or even targeted attacks. History has shown that during crises, misinformation can spread rapidly, fueled by fear and speculation. The government faces the daunting task of maintaining a steady stream of accurate updates to prevent panic. Coordination with state and local governments becomes vital, but it is fraught with potential pitfalls. Each region faces unique challenges, whether urban centers with dense populations or rural areas with limited resources. The state and federal emergency response teams must rapidly align their efforts. This coordination is often rehearsed in simulations, but unpredictable elements in a real crisis constrain the tested processes. Even with prepared frameworks, the need for improvisation is inevitable, calling on the adaptability of leaders at all levels. The role of the military cannot be underestimated, as they are typically among the first to be fully mobilized. Their duties extend beyond defense to include assisting civilian agencies in supporting critical infrastructure. Bases and installations across the country become beehives of activity, spreading their resources, medical units, engineering battalions, and communication teams to areas hit hardest by the attack. Their presence aims to restore some semblance of order, providing a stabilized environment in which other government functions can operate more effectively. Externally, diplomatic channels are immediately activated. Allies and international bodies must be informed and reassured about the measures being undertaken. These communications are delicate, requiring a balance between transparency and the safeguarding of sensitive information. As the government negotiates this landscape, it also prepares for potential international aid or intervention. The human aspect of these responses underscores their complexity. People in positions of authority, driven by duty, grapple with enormous pressure. They bear the weight of millions of lives and future legacies on their shoulders. Error margins are minuscule, and the mental toll is inestimable. Yet, within this pressure cooker, instances of incredible resilience and leadership emerge. These moments offer a sliver of hope amid adversity, showcasing humanity's ability to rise above even the direst circumstances. Ultimately, the goal of these immediate responses is not just to mitigate damage, but to serve as a bridge to stabilization, setting the stage for recovery and longer-term strategic adjustments. The effectiveness of these first steps often defines the trajectory of the aftermath, making immediate government response a decisive chapter in the broader narrative of survival and resilience. Emergency procedures. When a nation faces the specter of a nuclear attack, the initial moments are critical. Governments must have emergency procedures that are well-rehearsed and immediate. Protocols are designed to ensure a swift response, mitigate damage, and protect as many lives as possible. These procedures aren't developed in a vacuum. They're a culmination of strategies honed over decades of geopolitical tension and technological advancement. The first step in any government's emergency procedures is the rapid verification of an impending threat. Agencies leverage satellites, radar, and intelligence networks to confirm the threat's credibility and trajectory. This real-time verification process requires cooperation between military and civilian agencies, each with predefined roles. Without this coordination, false alarms could trigger unnecessary panic or, worse, an unneeded retaliatory response. Once a threat is verified, immediate communication with world leaders and allies becomes essential. Diplomatic hotlines, established during the Cold War, offer a direct line for heads of state to coordinate responses and share intelligence. Effective communication ensures misunderstandings are minimized and collaboration maximized. It's a delicate balance, one that demands transparency yet preserves national security prerogatives. Concurrently, the emergency broadcast systems take precedence on both the national and local levels. These systems serve as the primary method for informing the public, delivering precise instructions on whether to evacuate or seek shelter. Local governments may activate sirens or use SEMS alerts, while national channels might interrupt regular programming. The speed and accuracy of these messages can mean the difference between chaos and order, life and death. Defense measures are activated in tandem, with military forces on high alert. Each branch acts according to its role in the response plan. Defense installations brace for impact or prepare countermeasures, while air defenses are mobilized to prevent further escalation. Meanwhile, military command centers assess potential response strategies, weighing the benefits and consequences of each action. Evacuation orders might be issued for areas in the direct path of potential fallout. Infrastructure, such as roads and public transportation, plays a vital role in facilitating a rapid but orderly evacuation. Special attention is given to vulnerable populations, including the elderly, disabled, and those without access to private transportation. Shelter locations are predetermined in these plans, with supplies often stocked in advance to support displaced individuals. In certain scenarios, shelter-in-place directives may be deemed safer. Communities near potential targets, where evacuation might not be feasible, must be prepared to stay indoors for an extended period. This approach emphasizes the importance of public knowledge on how to effectively seal a home or building. Disaster preparedness programs often discuss these strategies, ranging from sealing windows to establishing a clean air supply. Throughout these procedures, maintaining public order is imperative. Law enforcement and emergency services are tasked with managing crowds, addressing civil unrest, and prioritizing life-saving operations. Coordination among local, state, and federal agencies aims to ensure resources are efficiently deployed where needed most. This multifaceted response requires agility, as conditions can change rapidly. Finally, in the aftermath of an attack, the focus shifts from immediate survival to long-term recovery. Emergency procedures encompass strategies not only for the initial response but for subsequent days and months. These strategies include medical care for affected populations, the restoration of critical infrastructure, and the reintegration of displaced communities. The resilience of a nation in the face of such adversity often depends on the robustness and execution of these plans. In conclusion, emergency procedures are a sophisticated and integral part of a nation's preparedness against nuclear threats. They provide a guide for actions that, when executed effectively, can save lives and stabilize the nation in terrifying circumstances. While they may not eliminate the terror a nuclear threat poses, they are crucial in minimizing its impact and giving humanity a fighting chance to endure. These procedures are not merely theoretical constructs, they are a necessary response to the chilling realities of our times. Communication challenges. The maze of communication in an immediate government response to a nuclear threat is a test of both technology and human resolve. From the crackling of static-riddled radios to the instantaneous ping of secure digital channels, relaying information accurately and swiftly is paramount. Yet, in reality, the task is fraught with pitfalls and vulnerabilities. Effective communication can be the linchpin that either stabilizes a crisis or amplifies chaos. First and foremost, when a nuclear alert is triggered, there's the overwhelming challenge of verifying authenticity. In the heat of the moment, discerning between an actual threat and a false alarm demands precise judgment. Past incidents have illustrated that even the most sophisticated systems can falter, leading to near-catastrophic decisions. The infamous 1983 Soviet nuclear false alarm is a stark reminder of this peril, where a lieutenant colonel's calm assessment averted disaster by recognizing a computer error. In a high-stakes scenario, a glitch isn't just a technical issue, it can be a harbinger of far-reaching consequences. Moreover, the complexity of maintaining communication lines under attack is formidable. Infrastructure, such as satellites and internet networks, could be directly targeted, compromising crucial channels. Governments must rely on hardened systems, secure, redundantly independent, and fail-safe. These systems need to operate seamlessly, despite physical and cyber threats, ensuring that decision-makers receive and dispatch information rapidly. It's a delicate dance between safeguarding against espionage and ensuring openness where needed. A particular challenge arises from the need to communicate with both clarity and confidentiality. During the initial phase of a government response, classified information shared between military and political leaders must remain secure. Yet, the public needs some level of informative assurance to prevent mass panic. Walking this tightrope requires a balance between transparency and secrecy. Authorities must frame messages that provide reassurance without compromising national security or inadvertently aiding the adversary. The communication channels among international allies also play a critical role. Coordinating with other nations, particularly those within military alliances such as NATO, is crucial for a unified response. The urgency and gravity of a potential nuclear conflict necessitate that these channels are open, reliable, and devoid of diplomatic red tape. Yet differences in language, protocol, and prioritization can muddy communications, risking delays or misunderstandings that could have dire repercussions. Language barriers present another layer of complexity. The nuances and cultural subtleties in conveying urgency can be lost, especially across translation. Diplomats and military officials often depend on interpreters and real-time translation technologies, which are not immune to errors. Misinterpretations, however slight, can compound tensions or cause friction between allies, making precise language crucial. On the domestic front, reaching diverse populations with varied levels of access to technology is another formidable challenge. While urban centers may receive alerts through various digital means, rural or marginalized communities might only have access to traditional media. This disparity necessitates a multi-channel approach, leveraging radio, television, text alerts, and even in-person notifications to ensure no one is left uninformed. Each method has its drawbacks and dependencies, from power sources to network coverage, which must be accounted for in any comprehensive strategy. In essence, effective communication challenges during a nuclear threat response are multifaceted, involving technology, human psychology, and strategic diplomacy. The stakes are monumental, as the absence of clear, coordinated communication can exacerbate the crisis, leading to miscalculations or uninformed decision-making. Governments must invest in resilient and redundant systems, train personnel in crisis management, and continuously evaluate and update plans as technologies and geopolitical realities evolve. Only through meticulous preparation can nations hope to address these challenges comprehensively, safeguarding both their citizens and the broader global community. Chapter 6: Civilian Impact and Survival. When a nuclear event occurs, the effects on civilians are immediate and profound. Panic grips the public, blossoming into chaos faster than most emergency plans can manage. In urban areas, with their dense populations and complex infrastructures, these issues multiply exponentially. Streets fill with people attempting to flee, while others seek refuge in bunkers or any buildings that promise even a semblance of safety. This isn't a scene reserved for movies, it's a harsh potential reality that cities around the globe must face. Understanding public reaction under such stress is crucial. The initial burst of fear often leads to a breakdown in conventional social order. Imagine the anxiety of families separated by miles of city sprawl and the digital silence as communication networks buckle under the strain. Without clear direction from authorities, misinformation spreads rapidly, stoked by fear and uncertainty. A governing body must quickly establish communication with the populace to convey messages of order and instruction, reducing the potential for rampant misinformation. Yet, amidst this adversity, human resilience can shine. Communities sometimes find surprising ways to come together, creating makeshift support networks. People might open their homes to neighbors, share resources like food and water, or work in teams to clear debris and offer medical help. This spontaneous community spirit is a powerful testament to human goodwill, especially in contrast to the unfolding chaos. Survival strategies in urban areas require careful pre-planning and education. Knowing where public shelters are located and understanding the basics of radiation, like the importance of shielding, distance, and time, can dramatically increase survival odds. Urban survival isn't just about bunkers, it's about informed decisions. For instance, in the absence of designated shelters, proximity to underground structures such as subways could serve as temporary havens from radiation exposure. Preparedness plays a vital role, communicated long before any threat looms. Training programs that educate the public on emergency responses, including how to use household materials for improvised protection, can empower civilians. In the U.S., some organizations have spearheaded initiatives to distribute emergency kits and conduct drills, but broad participation and awareness remain inconsistent. Raising this collective consciousness is as much about policy as it is about personal responsibility. Addressing civilian impact can't exclude considerations of mental health. The psychological scars left by a nuclear event are not easily healed. Those who survive are left to grapple with the trauma of the experience, the loss of loved ones, and the disruption of normal life. Mental health services, therefore, must be an integral part of emergency response plans, offering counseling and support to help victims regain some sense of normalcy. Survival isn't solely about planning an immediate response. It requires building resilient communities that can withstand not just the physical damage, but also the social and economic aftershocks of a nuclear strike. By investing in education, fostering community engagement, and supporting robust infrastructure, we plant the seeds of survival long before they are needed. In summary, examining the civilian impact of nuclear events reveals a tapestry of chaos, community, and resilience. It demands a proactive approach, focusing not only on technical preparedness but also on nurturing the human spirit to rise above catastrophe. Urban survival, while daunting, is possible through informed, community-driven initiatives and steadfast resilience anchors resilience in empathy and cooperation. Public reaction and chaos. The moment nuclear threats become reality, the public's reaction would likely swing between disbelief and panic. Initially, information would flood social media and news outlets, often leading to confusion about what is factual. Misinformation may spread rapidly, exacerbating fears and uncertainty. People would rush to verify news from multiple sources, only to find conflicting reports and a lack of clarity. This scramble for accurate information can create a chaotic atmosphere as people attempt to make sense of an unprecedented situation. In the immediate aftermath, chaos could manifest in numerous ways. Mass evacuations might be attempted, with highways and public transport systems overwhelmed by the sheer volume of people trying to flee perceived danger zones. Supermarkets would probably see a surge in frantic shopping as individuals and families stockpile food, water, and essential supplies. This panic-buying behavior isn't merely a dramatic prediction, it stems from a primal instinct to prepare for the worst. Amidst this turmoil, the social fabric of communities could begin to fray. People may become suspicious or fearful of their neighbors, especially if resources become scarce. Trust in governmental and authoritative figures could diminish rapidly if the response delays or miscommunication occurs. It's during these turbulent times that rumors can escalate into full-blown paranoia, often targeting minority or marginalized groups as scapegoats for societal woes. Yet, it's not all survival of the fittest. In past crises, there have always been acts of kindness and heroism. Individuals and community groups might organize to offer support to those most vulnerable, counteracting some of the chaos with compassion. Volunteer efforts would likely spring up, offering shelter, food, or medical care to those in need. Such grassroots mobilization could serve as a crucial lifeline, restoring some semblance of order amidst the disorder. As the world comes to grips with the new reality, psychological impacts would surface. Anxiety and stress could take a tremendous toll on mental health, with a significant portion of the population grappling with trauma even after immediate threats subside. Mental health services might be stretched thin but would remain a critical component in aiding recovery and fostering resilience. The public reaction to nuclear events is, in fact, a complex tapestry woven from fear, chaos, and resilience. It forces communities to confront their vulnerabilities while discovering untested reserves of strength. How society navigates this turbulence will largely depend on existing social ties, preparedness education, and the speed and transparency of information dissemination by trusted sources. Survival strategies in urban areas. Urban landscapes, with their densely packed populations and vast infrastructural hubs, present a unique set of challenges in the wake of a nuclear event. Preparing for survival in such environments requires a blend of strategic planning, resourcefulness, and rapid adaptation. The key to navigating these tumultuous times lies in understanding the intricacies of the urban ecosystem and leveraging them to one's advantage. First and foremost, locating a secure spot is critical. Basements and underground garages can offer some protection from initial blasts and radiation. It's essential to remember that not all buildings are equal. Structures with sturdier construction, particularly those made of concrete or with multiple floors below ground, provide the best shielding against radioactive fallout. Once shelter is secured, the focus shifts to maintaining supplies. In urban areas, resources like food and water might become scarce quickly. Therefore, having a stockpile of non-perishable foods, bottled water, and essential medicines is vital. In addition, urban survivalists should familiarize themselves with local water purification methods, which could involve boiling, chemical treatments, or even makeshift filtration systems using available materials. Navigating the cityscape, if required to move, demands caution and awareness. It's important to know primary and alternative routes, particularly those less traveled, that might offer safer passage. Urban terrains often have hidden pathways, such as subway lines or maintenance tunnels, which could be leveraged for stealthy movement across areas without exposure to open environments or potential threats. In addition to physical preparedness, cultivating a mindset attuned to survival is equally crucial. In high-stress situations, maintaining composure can make the difference between life and death. Individuals should engage in regular mental and physical exercises that build resilience, such as meditation or stress management techniques, coupled with basic survival training. Communication, often compromised during crises, must be maintained as effectively as possible. Satellite phones and battery-powered radios might serve as crucial links to the outside world, providing vital information on government actions, safe zones, and supply drops. Establishing a previously prepared network of trusted contacts within the urban community can also facilitate the exchange of information and resources. Moreover, the urban environment, while challenging, also offers unexpected resources. Abandoned vehicles can serve as temporary shelters, and their parts may be repurposed for various needs. Likewise, libraries and educational institutions might house valuable materials that can be used for learning new skills or creating tools. Urban survival strategies must also account for the psychological impact on individuals and communities. In the anxiety-laden atmosphere following a nuclear incident, maintaining a sense of community, even at a small scale, can provide emotional support and boost morale. Group efforts in tasks like securing food or finding water increase not only efficiency but also solidarity and hope. Importantly, urban dwellers must recognize when to stay put and when evacuation becomes necessary. This decision hinges on various factors, including the scale of the threat, available resources, and ongoing governmental advisories. A pre-established plan that outlines these scenarios will minimize panic and facilitate prompt action. Understanding that urban areas have unique assets and hurdles, developing a personalized survival plan that incorporates these elements is essential for preparedness. The convergence of strategy, adaptability, and community lies at the heart of surviving in post-nuclear urban landscapes. Fundamental readiness combined with nimbleness in decision-making ensures not only survival but also the fortitude to rebuild and recover in the aftermath. Chapter 7. Long-term environmental consequences. The specter of nuclear conflict casts a long shadow over our environment, far beyond the immediate, destructive shockwaves. While the initial moments of impact grab headlines, the ecosystem quietly endures the slow transformation towards a new reality. A single detonation can obliterate life for miles, but the longer-term consequences ripple through countless generations. Among the most profound of these is the potential onset of a nuclear winter. This global climatic condition could result from a large-scale nuclear war, sending smoke and soot into the stratosphere where it blocks sunlight for an extended period. Imagine the world plunged into a perpetual twilight, temperatures plummeting as vital crops struggle to survive. This darker, colder Earth could alter precipitation patterns, exacerbate droughts, and compromise food security for billions, painting a grim picture of a post-nuclear future. Climate change, already a pressing issue, would meet a formidable companion in nuclear-induced alterations. The disruptive forces on atmospheric dynamics can lead to unpredictable weather patterns, challenging our current models of climate science. What happens when seasons as we know them cease to exist? The resulting die-off in flora and fauna could irreparably harm biodiversity. Species extinction would likely increase, destabilizing ecosystems already on the brink due to human activities. In the oceans, radioactive fallout settles into waters, entering the food chain from microscopic plankton up to apex predators. As marine life is exposed to radiation, the biodiversity of the seas tremors under stress. Fish stocks could dwindle, impacting the livelihoods of communities dependent on them and contributing to wider economic instability. On land, ecosystems face another battle. Forests, grasslands, and wetlands that act as the lungs of our planet would be scorched or poisoned, losing their capacity to regulate carbon or purify air and water. The regeneration of these natural systems, if at all possible, could span millennia. Imagine forests slowly returning, whispering the resilient stories of nature while carrying radiation scars deep in their roots. As the ash settles, the soil itself becomes a silent testament to the devastation. Radioactive isotopes, some with half-lives of thousands of years, latch onto the earth, hindering agricultural recovery. The concept of fertile ground shifts dramatically. What once nurtured becomes hostile, perpetuating a landscape of hunger and unrest. This toxic legacy highlights the gravity of nuclear weapons, extending their threat well beyond immediate human lives. Efforts in remediation and recovery would require concerted international cooperation, innovative technology, and, critically, time. Preventative strategies must focus on avoiding the brink of such catastrophe. Environmental organizations, scientists, and policymakers play pivotal roles in educating about the potential scenarios and mobilizing actions to shield the Earth's delicate balance. These discussions, admittedly riddled with complexities and uncertainties, remain imperative because the fabric of our existence hangs in proximity to these invisible threats. Nuclear winter scenarios. In the theater of geopolitical tensions, where nuclear arsenals play the role of both deterrence and threats, the concept of a nuclear winter casts an ominous shadow. It's not the immediate blast or the ensuing fireball that stands as the sole menace. The long-term repercussions, particularly nuclear winter, present a chilling picture of altered ecosystems and survival challenges. To comprehend the enormity of such scenarios, one must imagine a world where the seasons themselves rebel against their natural order. At its core, a nuclear winter scenario conjures images of cataclysm on a planetary scale. It's believed that if multiple nuclear weapons were detonated, the resulting firestorms would send massive clouds of soot into the stratosphere. This dense layer of smoke could block sunlight, leading to a drastic drop in global temperatures. The Earth, plunged into a prolonged winter-like state, would see growing seasons shortened or obliterated altogether. The implications for agriculture are particularly dire. Crops that depend on predictable cycles of sunlight and warmth would suddenly face hostile conditions. This disruption in food production would not only affect regions directly within the blast zones but span continents, leading to widespread food shortages. Consider a world where breadbasket regions fail to yield their harvests. The ripple effects on the global food supply chain would be devastating. As sunlight wanes and temperatures plummet, entire ecosystems would buckle under the sudden change. Some species might adapt or migrate, but many others would face extinction. The delicate balance of various biomes already under stress from human activity would be further tipped. These cascading effects on flora and fauna would not only disrupt biodiversity but also dismantle existing food webs, plunging many animal species into a dire struggle for survival. In urban centers, the chill of nuclear winter would manifest in tangible hardships. Infrastructure not built to withstand such extremes would falter, and energy resources stretched thin would struggle to keep the darkened cities warm. The psychological impact on human populations, suddenly thrust into this new reality, would be profound. Societies might find themselves grappling with not only the physical challenges but also the deeply unsettling realization of living in a vastly altered world. One must also ponder the impacts on health. The absence of adequate nutrition from disrupted food supplies, combined with harsh environmental conditions, could weaken human immune systems and exacerbate disease outbreaks. Those already vulnerable children, The elderly, the sick would be at even greater risk. Such conditions could accelerate global health crises, creating challenges parallel to the environmental catastrophes unfolding. The threat of nuclear winter underscores the interconnectedness of our planet's systems. Even regions initially spared from direct devastation would soon feel the chilling consequences. Human resilience would be tested to unprecedented limits. The scenarios demand not just scientific understanding, but also a profound shift towards global cooperation, as the impacts of nuclear conflict are not confined by borders. Thinking about a nuclear winter, then, is a powerful reminder of the stakes involved in nuclear diplomacy. It's not enough to focus solely on deterrence or immediate impacts. The potential unraveling of the very framework that supports life on Earth should drive concerted efforts towards prevention and peace. There's an urgent need to strengthen international frameworks that aim to curb the proliferation and potential use of these weapons. As we delve deeper into the grim possibilities of nuclear winter, it's crucial to frame these discussions within the broader narrative of human survival and responsibility. The key lies in harnessing our collective capacity for ingenuity and cooperation to avert such scenarios from transitioning from theoretical constructs into our lived reality. In this precarious dance with destruction, it is foresight and action, not shivers of dread, that must become our guiding principles. Impact on ecosystems. When you think of nuclear fallout, the mind often drifts to images of devastated cities and the immediate human suffering that follows. However, the long-term effects on ecosystems might just be the most insidious and ultimately the most damaging. Ecosystems are the backbones of our planet. They provide resources and balance essential life processes. After a nuclear event, the shockwaves rippling through these natural systems can last for decades, if not centuries. The initial impact on flora and fauna can be nothing short of catastrophic. The explosion and subsequent radiation unleash a barrage of effects on the biosphere. Forests, often seen as the world's lungs, could face rapid die-offs. Radiation doesn't discriminate. It can decimate entire plant communities, altering soil chemistry, and in some cases, making regions inhospitable for subsequent generations. This, in turn, impacts the myriad of species that depend on these plants for survival. In aquatic environments, radiation can dissolve into water bodies, spreading through rivers, lakes, and oceans. Fish and other aquatic organisms are particularly susceptible to these changes. The genetic mutations caused by radiation can lead to decreased populations or, in some cases, complete collapses of local aquatic ecosystems. As these waters are integral to life on land, there is a cascading effect that can disrupt agricultural practices and clean water supplies for miles around. Beyond the immediate surroundings, migratory patterns could alter on a massive scale. Birds, insects, and larger mammals that typically traverse vast distances might find themselves traversing a poisoned landscape. Some species may adapt and migrate to less affected areas, while others could find extinction a more likely prospect. This kind of disruption can lead to unforeseen ecological consequences as well, given how interconnected species are within their specific environments. The concept of bioaccumulation becomes a significant concern in the aftermath of nuclear fallout. In simplest terms, radioactive particles can accumulate in plants and animals, growing more concentrated as they're passed up the food chain. Predatory species, including humans, may find themselves ingesting these particles in higher doses, increasing the risk of illness and genetic deformities. This chain reaction can take years to manifest fully, making it a silent but deadly aftermath of nuclear disasters. Another often overlooked impact is the effect on pollinators. Bees, butterflies, and other pollinating insects are essential for maintaining plant biodiversity and agricultural productivity. Radiation can severely impact their populations, and without them, the reproduction of many plants becomes impossible. This triggers a domino effect through the food-to-food web, potentially causing unsuccessful crop yields and subsequent food shortages. In the shadows of these issues lies the fact that some ecosystems might actually evolve, though not necessarily for the better. Over time, certain species that can withstand higher radiation levels may dominate over others, resulting in an ecological shift. These new ecosystems may lack the biodiversity and balance of their predecessors and could fundamentally alter the landscape in ways that are currently unimaginable, influencing everything from local climate patterns to soil erosion rates. However, it's also worth recognizing the resilience found within nature. While the damage can be profound, some areas might eventually recover, albeit slowly and in a changed form. Previous incidents, like Chernobyl, have shown that plant life and some animal species can adapt to, and even thrive in, contaminated environments over decades. Such recovery, though remarkable, often leads to a different kind of biodiversity, reminding us that nature adapts, even if it's not the way we hope. In contemplating the long-term environmental consequences of nuclear events, it's evident that the ripple effects on ecosystems demand our attention. Understanding these impacts is crucial, not only for theorizing about future possibilities, but also for crafting effective international policies aimed at prevention. The resilience of ecosystems, though awe-inspiring, shouldn't be relied upon as a safety net for human folly. Instead, a preventive approach may offer the only sustainable path forward, ensuring the health of our planet for generations to come. Chapter 8. Economic Fallout. The detonation of a nuclear weapon does more than just reshape the physical landscape, it reshapes the global economic terrain too. In an interconnected world, the initial shockwave of destruction is quickly followed by a reverberating economic collapse that crosses borders and oceans. Fragile supply chains, already stretched thin under normal circumstances, crumble under the pressure of uncertainty and fear. Essential commodities suddenly become scarce as trade routes are severed, and transportation networks face severe disruptions. Immediately, the world faces a scarcity of goods leading to inflation that echoes around the globe, impacting everything from food to fuel. The global stock markets mirror this pandemonium. Almost instantly, they plummet as investors scramble in a frantic rush away from risk. The panic isn't just an emotional reaction, it's a reflection of the cold, hard truths that a nuclear event spawns: disrupted production lines, labor force decimation, and the unforeseeable nature of radioactive contamination. For economies heavily reliant on international trade, the fallout can be particularly severe. Nations that once stood as economic powerhouses find themselves grappling with unprecedented downturns, unemployment spikes, and vast public unrest fueled by uncertainty about the future. Yet, even amidst the turmoil, opportunities for recovery and resilience begin to glimmer. Governments may need to rapidly deploy stimulus packages, execute strategic nationalizations of key industries, and negotiate international financial aid to staunch the economic bleeding. However, resilience doesn't emerge overnight. Economies must adapt, shifting focus to self-sufficiency and investing in sectors resilient to global shocks. Localized production gains new importance, with regions finding innovative solutions to reduce dependence on international supply chains. In the bleakness, there's a common understanding that this fallout requires a global effort, transcending past rivalries and economic competitions. Cooperation becomes not just necessary, but essential for survival. Only through collective action and shared wisdom can the world chart a course back to stability and perhaps forge a more resilient global economy than ever before. Global markets and trade disruption. The specter of a nuclear event casts a long, ominous shadow over global markets. In an interconnected world where the flow of goods and services transcends borders, any disruption has ramifications that ripple far beyond the epicenter of the catastrophe. Financial markets are not impervious to fear and uncertainty, they hinge on stability and predictability. When either of these is shattered, the shockwaves can be felt in every corner of the world economy. At the heart of these disruptions lies the obliterated trust between trading partners, brought about by the threat of unpredictability. Consider the logistical complexities of international trade, a vast network that connects producers, shippers, suppliers, and consumers. The intricate choreography of this network is vulnerable to disruption. In particular, a nuclear incident could physically destroy key infrastructures, such as ports and rail systems, or lead to their strategic closures for security reasons. Both scenarios result in immediate queues of unmet demand and undelivered supply, a logistical nightmare that exacerbates existing economic tensions. Thus, the phenomenon of globalization, which promises interconnected prosperity, simultaneously catalyzes interconnected vulnerabilities. The immediate aftermath of a nuclear event triggers volatility on an unprecedented scale. Stock markets plunge as investor confidence wanes. Commodities, particularly oil and precious metals, experience soaring prices as nations race to hoard what they deem valuable. Notably, insurance and reinsurance sectors face their own calamities, as discussions around coverage for nuclear incidents are complex and often laden with exclusions. Regulators and central banks scramble to stabilize economies with interventions designed to temper panic and ensure liquidity, though their resources are often stretched thin between preserving the domestic financial order and assisting global partners. Rethinking supply chains becomes imperative for businesses. Many companies, reliant on just-in-time delivery systems, find themselves reconsidering strategies that once prioritized efficiency but now expose them to greater risk, with certain regions potentially rendered inaccessible due to fallout or political isolation. The balance between cost and security becomes a pressing concern. The conversation moves towards diversifying supply routes and seeking alternatives closer to home, challenging the normalcy of globalized production. The geopolitical landscape metamorphoses in response to trade disruptions. Long-standing alliances might shift as nations reassess their strategic interests based on economic survival rather than political allegiance. Trade corridors, once busy with economic activity, might quiet, economically strangling smaller nations that depend heavily on exports. Strategic natural resources become bargaining chips, weaponized in new negotiations, transforming trade from a cooperative venture into a form of economic warfare. In the midst of this bewildering economic realignment, not all changes are negative. The crises offer a rare opportunity to address vulnerabilities and innovate. International bodies and governments may work together to institute more resilient global trade architectures, emphasizing regional autonomy alongside international cooperation. Measures such as strategic reserves, adaptive trade policies, and robust economic safety nets might emerge as salient features of diplomacy and trade. Ultimately, the story of global markets in the face of nuclear threat is one of disruption and adaptation, of resilience forged in necessity. It invites us to examine not just the systems that govern our economic transactions, but the assumptions underpinning them. How prepared are we to face scenarios that defy our expectations? Our exploration of trade disruption under the looming threat of nuclear conflict underscores the vital nature of adaptability and foresight, spotlighting the necessity of transforming today's vulnerabilities into tomorrow's safeguards. Strategies for economic recovery. In the wake of a nuclear conflict or significant geopolitical tensions resulting in economic downturns, the path to recovery is fraught with complexities and uncertainties. A multifaceted approach is essential to navigate these turbulent waters and restore stability. Understanding the intricate web of interconnected global markets, domestic industries, and technological advancements can pave the road to economic revitalization. First, reinvigorating global markets hinges on the rapid reestablishment of trade routes and international partnerships. This task demands collaborative efforts from multiple nations to rebuild trust and logistics networks. Restoring supply chains disrupted by geopolitical events is crucial. Many industries rely on international inputs and exports, and securing these channels can significantly accelerate recovery efforts. To achieve this, trade agreements might need reevaluation and adaptation to the new global landscape. Governments must liaise with international organizations to renegotiate terms that reflect current realities while fostering a spirit of cooperation. Emphasizing transparency and mutual benefits can ease tensions and encourage participation from both traditional allies and new partners. Domestically, stimulating economic growth requires targeted interventions tailored to each country's unique challenges. Investing in infrastructure can create jobs and lay the foundation for long-term economic health. Priority should be given to rebuilding physical and digital infrastructure, ensuring modern and resilient frameworks that can withstand future shocks. A robust infrastructure has cascading effects, improving efficiencies and promoting innovations in other sectors. Furthermore, development in technologies such as renewable energy and smart grids should be prioritized, reducing dependence on imports and increasing national resilience. In tandem with structural investments, implementing policies that support small and medium-sized enterprises (SMEs) is crucial. SMEs often form the backbone of national economies, providing employment in local products and services. Offering tax relief, subsidized loans, and grants can encourage these businesses to weather immediate financial storms and contribute to a broader economic revival. Workforce development also plays a critical role. Economic recovery isn't just about financial graphs improving. It's about realigning human capital with evolving market needs. Government-sponsored training programs and vocational education initiatives can empower displaced workers to find new opportunities in emerging industries. Collaboration with private enterprises to identify skills gaps can make training programs more effective and relevant. Encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation can drive recovery from a grassroots level. By creating a conducive environment for startups and tech innovations, economies can tap into the transformative power of new ideas. Policies that simplify bureaucratic processes, provide access to capital, and create industry cluster zones can foster a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem. Social safety nets cannot be underestimated in their role during recovery. Ensuring basic needs for housing, food, and healthcare are met during these challenging times stabilizes families and prevents deeper economic damage. Enhanced unemployment benefits, food assistance programs, and public health initiatives can uphold social morale and allow citizens to focus on rebuilding their livelihoods. Internationally, financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund and World Bank can provide critical assistance through loans and development programs. Their involvement can be pivotal in stabilizing currencies, balancing budgets, and providing necessary fiscal support for nations in distress. Political stability plays an equally significant part in economic recovery. Strengthening democratic institutions, ensuring rule of law, and promoting good governance can create an environment conducive to economic activities. Corruption and inefficiency must be tackled vigorously to ensure that recovery efforts reach those who need it most and not be siphoned off by graft. Finally, public awareness and engagement can contribute significantly to recovery efforts. Educating citizens about economic resilience and inviting them into decision-making processes can foster a sense of collective responsibility and inspire civic action. The road to economic recovery is arduous and meticulous, requiring strategic foresight, collaborative efforts, and relentless determination. By adopting a holistic approach that includes international cooperation, domestic strengthening, and embracing the spirit of innovation, societies can not only recover but also lay the groundwork for a more resilient and sustainable future. Chapter 9: International Reactions and Alliances. In the immediate aftermath of a nuclear crisis, the world doesn't just stand idly by. Nations around the globe scramble to interpret and respond to the situation, with alliances being tested and new ones potentially forming. Consider the reaction of NATO, the cornerstone of collective defense for North America and Europe. Its response is quick and measured, looking to uphold the principles of deterrence while ensuring no member nation faces the threat alone. The initial shock often brings a moment of unity, at least superficially. Governments reach out to one another, exchanging information and confirming allegiances. The goal is to present a unified front against further escalation. This response can foster a rare moment of international camaraderie, contrasting sharply with the usual competitive posturing. Countries that might otherwise be rivals set aside their differences, if only temporarily. However, this unity is fragile. Behind closed doors, discussions become heated. Some nations oscillate between taking a hardline stance and adopting a more reconciliatory approach. There's a palpable tension as leaders weigh their options, balancing the need to appear strong against the necessity of preventing further conflict. In such an atmosphere, long-standing alliances can be both a stabilizing force and a source of friction. The role of international organizations cannot be understated. While NATO is at the forefront for its members, the United Nations steps in to mediate, proposing resolutions that aim to ease tensions. The effectiveness of these measures often depends on the United Nations' ability to act swiftly and with the consent of its diverse membership. Many look to the Security Council for authoritative decisions, though its ability to respond can be hampered by internal politics and veto science. The crisis often catalyzes shifts in global dynamics. As some nations grow closer, seeking to bolster their security through enhanced cooperation, others drift apart. These shifts can be long-lasting, reshaping international relations for decades. Alliances are scrutinized, with weaknesses exposed and strengths highlighted. Nations like China and Russia watch closely, strategizing ways to leverage the situation to their advantage. Unease spreads as the balance of power is called into question. With every alliance tested, there lies the potential for nations to reevaluate their foreign policies. Non-aligned nations might find themselves under pressure to choose sides, their neutrality no longer tenable in a polarized world. For some, this presents an opportunity to strengthen ties with major powers, hoping for protection and economic gains in return. For others, it's an existential crisis, threatening their desired autonomy on the global stage. A significant factor in this geopolitical chess game is the role of smaller, regional alliances. Beyond the major players, regional blocs such as the African Union or ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations conduct their own assessments and responses. Their influence might be less pronounced on the global scale, but they remain crucial for maintaining regional stability and addressing localized threats that arise from international turmoil. There's also a ripple effect on humanitarian efforts and international aid. Conflict and instability divert attention and resources, complicating ongoing and future relief operations. Countries that provide substantial humanitarian assistance might face heightened security concerns, potentially reducing their involvement overseas. This, in turn, creates dilemmas for those reliant on such aid, as economic and political pressures rise internally. Despite the severity of the situation, there's always a sliver of hope embedded within the international community's response. Throughout history, moments of crisis have sparked unforeseen change, prompting discussions that lead to breakthroughs in diplomacy and collaboration. This unpredictability can pave the way for new alliances, investment in peacebuilding initiatives, or the revival of dormant diplomatic channels. It's a testament to the resilience of human connections and the potential for positive transformation even in the darkest of times. In summary, international reactions to a nuclear crisis highlight the intricate web of alliances and rivalries that define modern geopolitics. These alliances shape the course of the crisis, influencing both immediate actions and long-term global strategies. As nations navigate the treacherous waters of diplomacy and defense, their choices forge a path forward that could either heal or deepen the fissures among them. The resolution of such a crisis, therefore, is as much about understanding these alliances as it is about the weapons that catalyze the tension in the first place. NATO and global responses. As tensions rise on the nuclear stage, NATO's role in global security becomes ever more critical. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, founded in the aftermath of World War II, is designed to provide collective defense against aggression. It's more than just a military arrangement. It's a political alliance built on principles of mutual cooperation and shared security goals. In a world where nuclear threats are increasingly prevalent, NATO must navigate the complex geopolitical landscape while maintaining its commitment to peace and stability. NATO's strategy in addressing nuclear threats hinges on a core concept: deterrence. By maintaining strong defense capabilities, the alliance seeks to dissuade any potential aggressors from attacking its member states. This includes not only conventional military assets, but also a cohesive nuclear strategy aimed at preventing hostile actions through the promise of overwhelming retaliation. While the efficacy of deterrence is a subject of ongoing debate, the alliance remains steadfast in its belief that the threat of a unified response can help prevent nuclear escalation. Within the broader global response framework, NATO collaborates extensively with other international organizations and nation-states. This cooperation extends beyond formal treaties and agreements, involving strategic dialogues and military exercises that enhance readiness. By sharing intelligence and coordinating responses with global partners, NATO aims to create a more resilient network capable of addressing threats not just regionally but worldwide. Such collaborative efforts are critical in a globalized world where security challenges know no borders. However, the challenge of nuclear preparedness doesn't rest solely on NATO's shoulders. Non-member states and emerging international alliances also play a significant role in shaping the global response to nuclear risks. For instance, the United Nations continues to advocate for disarmament and arms control, spearheading various initiatives aimed at reducing the nuclear stockpile. Such efforts often involve complex negotiations that require careful diplomacy and a willingness to compromise from all involved parties. But despite concerted efforts, obstacles remain. Different strategic interests, regional conflicts, and political tensions can hinder collective action. Nations may prioritize their own security concerns over collective frameworks, leading to fragmentation and unilateral actions. NATO, therefore, must continually adapt to these challenges, ensuring that it remains not only relevant but effective in the face of ever-evolving threats. In a time when the specter of nuclear confrontation looms large, NATO's commitment to its member state security is unwavering. Yet, this commitment isn't just about military might, it also encompasses political solidarity and dedication to diplomatic solutions. By working in concert with the global community, NATO strives not only to deter aggression but also to pave the way for a more peaceful world. In doing so, the alliance plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of nuclear policy, balancing the twin imperatives of security and diplomacy in a delicate dance on the international stage. Shifts in international relations. In the tumultuous world of nuclear geopolitics, the landscape of international relations is ever-changing. The onset of a nuclear threat, or even the mere perception of one, can catalyze a rapid realignment of global alliances. As nations make strategic calculations, they often seek new partnerships to bolster their security and advance their political agendas. This fluidity in alliances can create unexpected coalitions, driven by both shared interests and mutual fears. One significant shift has been the emergence of unconventional partnerships. Historically distant nations may join forces when confronted by a common adversary, especially when nuclear capabilities are involved. For instance, countries without a history of collaboration can find common ground in counterbalancing a perceived nuclear aggressor. These alliances, though occasionally short-lived, can have lasting impacts on global politics. They reflect a pragmatic approach to survival where ideological differences are set aside in favor of more immediate, existential concerns. Moreover, the evolution of international relations often involves a delicate balancing act. The quest for nuclear capabilities might tempt some countries to drift towards rival blocs, seeking technology or political leverage. This shuffling of allegiances introduces a layer of unpredictability that can strain existing international frameworks. Traditional allies might find themselves at odds, while former adversaries could become unexpected allies. This shift doesn't just affect political landscapes but also economic dependencies. As countries form new alliances, trade routes and economic policies may adjust to fit the new global reality. Sanctions and embargoes could be imposed or lifted based on the diplomatic temperature, influencing everything from energy supplies to technological exchanges. It's a complex dance of diplomacy and pragmatism, requiring countries to constantly reassess their positions on the global stage. Additionally, regional powers often play a pivotal role in this dynamic process. Their actions and alliances can either stabilize or exacerbate delicate situations, especially when they hold a crucial geographical position or possess advanced military capabilities. The strategic moves of these regional players are watched closely, as they can signal broader shifts in the international order and trigger a domino effect of realignments. In the shadow of potential nuclear conflict, international organizations also experience shifts in their roles and effectiveness. Some may gain influence, serving as platforms for dialogue and negotiation, while others might struggle with internal divisions that reflect the larger geopolitical tensions. This dynamic can lead either to strengthened cooperation or the fragmentation of multilateral engagement. The ability to adapt is a key skill in this evolving domain. Nations must continually evaluate their policies and partnerships to navigate the shifting currents of international relations. In doing so, they ensure not only their survival but also influence the broader trajectory of global stability. These shifts are not merely reactions to immediate threats. They are strategic adaptations that shape the future of international diplomacy in the nuclear age. Chapter 10. Preventive Strategies and Diplomacy. As we navigate the complex labyrinth of nuclear diplomacy, it's essential to recognize the strategies that have historically contributed to peace. The balance between power and diplomacy is delicate, yet it's this balance that has often steered us away from the brink of conflict. From the tense deliberations during the Cuban Missile Crisis to the more recent nuclear non-proliferation treaties, history offers numerous examples where dialogue and negotiation averted potential disasters. Preventive strategies in the sphere of international relations are akin to a high-stakes game of chess. Each move is calculated, with the anticipation and understanding of possible outcomes. Here, diplomacy emerges as a robust tool that nations deploy to maintain peace, and prevent nuclear escalation. The art of diplomacy requires skillful negotiation, mutual respect, and a willingness to engage in sometimes difficult conversations. Historically, peace efforts have emerged from the ashes of conflict, teaching us lessons that echo through the corridors of today's diplomatic arenas. Consider the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons (NEPT), aimed at preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and promoting peaceful nuclear energy use. Although not without its challenges, the NEPT remains a cornerstone of global nuclear policy, fostering a culture of responsibility among nuclear and non-nuclear states alike. Looking ahead, future diplomatic initiatives must adapt to the evolving landscape of international politics. The geopolitical climate today is more interconnected and complex than ever before. Thus, multilateral discussions are invaluable. Emerging powers and regional conflicts require inclusive platforms where diverse voices can contribute to a collective security framework. However, diplomacy isn't just about talking. It requires actionable commitments. Transparency, trust-building measures, and verification protocols are essential components of any successful diplomatic strategy. Without these, treaties are merely words on paper, lacking the teeth needed to ensure compliance and lasting peace. A critical component of preventive diplomacy is the involvement of non-state actors, such as international organizations and think tanks, that bring expertise, creativity, and a non-partisan perspective to negotiations. Their input can provide innovative solutions and assist in conflict resolution where traditional state-centric approaches may fall short. The path to peacemaking is not linear. It involves challenges, setbacks, and sometimes stagnation. However, persistence and the shared understanding that nuclear conflict is in no one's interest can gradually pave the way for breakthroughs. Engagements, both direct and through intermediaries, pave a path away from isolation and hostility. As we embark on future efforts, there's a clear need for education and awareness. Educating leaders, diplomats, and the public on the catastrophic consequences of nuclear warfare is vital. This collective enlightenment fosters a culture that prioritizes peace over conflict and dialogue over division. In summary, preventive strategies and diplomacy are indispensable in crafting a future where nuclear tensions are mitigated and global peace becomes more than just an ideal. Through continued diplomatic innovation, strategic dialogue, and unwavering commitment to peace, the world can strive to sidestep the specter of nuclear conflict and build a safer, more secure future for all. Historical peace efforts. Navigating through the tangled web of nuclear diplomacy, one must seek out those glimmers of hope and sanity dispersed across history. Throughout the decades, nations and leaders have occasionally risen to the hard-won challenge of choosing dialogue over devastation. Historical peace efforts, though not always effective, represent humanity's struggle between its destructive capabilities and its longing for peace. The journey toward nuclear disarmament and de-escalation paints a vivid tapestry of accords, treaties, and at times, sheer perseverance. Consider the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons (NEPT), initiated in 1968. Its ethos aimed to curb the spread of nuclear weapons while promoting peaceful uses of nuclear energy. The treaty wasn't just a legal document, it was a statement of long-term commitment to a nuclear-free future, though not without its critics and challenges. The NEPT became a cornerstone in multilateral arms control and provided a platform for nuclear and non-nuclear states to collaborate in a bid to mitigate nuclear risks. Fast forward to the later years of the Cold War, and one finds the pivotal Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty (INF) of 1987. Spearheaded by then-leaders Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, the INF Treaty stands as a testament to the power of negotiation and visionary leadership. The dismantling of intermediate-range missiles under this treaty didn't just reduce the nuclear arms stockpile. It signaled a thaw in the frosty relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. It's one of history's high points where diplomacy wore the crown. Opposite these watershed moments, efforts like the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty (CTBT) expose the complexity of achieving consensus. Opened for signature in 1996, the CTBT aimed to ban all nuclear explosions, yet it remains unenforced as of today due to some key nations' reluctance to ratify it. Here lies an illustration of the friction between national agendas and global harmony. underscoring that diplomatic endeavors can face hurdles despite good intentions. The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty Start series further fueled efforts to limit and reduce strategic arsenals. Initiated in 1991 and evolving through various iterations, the START negotiations laid a framework for transparency between the United States and Russia through verifiable arms reductions. These initiatives sought to draw down the number of deployable warheads and underscore the significance of openings for dialogue. A recurring theme across historical peace efforts has been the balance between optimism and realism. Diplomats and policymakers often traverse uncertain grounds, juggling urgent threats and the eventual promise of peace. Yet, lessons from history impart wisdom. Each success and setback enriches the understanding of what it takes to cultivate and maintain peace in a world accustomed to the brinkmanship that nuclear arms evoke. One must not overlook the smaller, yet significant, instances of bilateral accords and regional disarmament initiatives. The impact of the 1985 South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone Treaty, for example, illustrates that localized efforts can carve paths toward larger global ambitions. While the US, France, and Britain had their reservations, the agreement marked a critical shift in the South Pacific, aspiring for a regional zone free from nuclear proliferation. As we study these historical peace efforts, we see the intricate dance between hope and pragmatism. Countries engage in this tango with varying motives, security concerns, political leverage, or genuine camaraderie. The intricate connections between past achievements and future possibilities linger, echoing the question, what steps must humanity take next? In reflecting on these historic milestones, it's essential to recognize the perseverance and courage of those who have influenced nuclear dialogue. Their ability to overcome skepticism and fear set vital precedents for future diplomatic initiatives. Understanding the past helps shape resilient strategies and inspires today's efforts towards a peaceful coexistence in a nuclear-capable world. Future diplomatic initiatives. The future of global stability hinges significantly on diplomatic initiatives designed to prevent nuclear escalation. As we progress into an era with increasingly sophisticated technologies and complex international relationships, the role of diplomacy becomes more critical than ever. Diplomatic efforts in the future must address not only existing tensions but preemptively manage potential flashpoints that could spiral out of control. The task is complex, requiring strategies that are both innovative and adaptable to rapidly changing geopolitical landscapes. One vital initiative involves strengthening existing international treaties. Current frameworks like the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons (NPT) have served well, but call for updates to remain relevant in a world where non-state actors and rogue nations might access nuclear technologies. Future diplomacy could focus on bolstering these treaties, ensuring comprehensive verification mechanisms, and integrating emerging nuclear states under a unified global non-proliferation strategy. Reinforcing these agreements will demand a robust international consensus, particularly among nuclear-armed states. Moreover, diplomatic initiatives should prioritize cybersecurity in the nuclear domain. As recent developments show, cyber threats can potentially undermine nuclear stability by targeting communication and control systems. Future diplomacy needs to create binding international standards for cybersecurity in relation to nuclear arsenals, fostering trust and transparency between countries. Initiatives could include joint international cyber exercises and real-time information sharing frameworks that help mitigate misunderstandings and conflicts arising from cyber incidents. Dialogue, above all, plays a crucial role in these future initiatives. Channels of communication should remain open even during heightened tensions. In the Cold War era, back-channel communications occasionally played a pivotal role in de-escalating potential crises. Building on these historical precedents, future diplomacy could set up dedicated conflict resolution centers that operate continuously, involving not just diplomats but also military and cybersecurity experts. These centers could serve as real-time de-escalation tools, preventing minor disputes from escalating into full-blown nuclear confrontations. Additionally, fostering regional dialogues is essential for maintaining peace in volatile areas. Regions like the Korean Peninsula and South Asia require tailored diplomatic efforts that consider regional histories, politics, and cultural dynamics. Future diplomatic initiatives could focus on developing regional non-aggression pacts, economic cooperation frameworks, and cultural exchanges, all aimed at reducing incentives for nuclear brinkmanship. Expanding diplomacy to a regional level also helps engage multiple stakeholders, encouraging collective responsibility and participation in peacebuilding. The role of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and multinational corporations in future diplomatic efforts shouldn't be underestimated. These entities can promote peace through cultural exchanges, economic incentives, and grassroots initiatives, fostering a global culture that values cooperation over conflict. Future diplomatic efforts could thus include public-private partnerships that leverage resources and expertise from various sectors to support peace initiatives and dismantle incentives for nuclear proliferation. Finally, educational initiatives should become a permanent aspect of diplomatic strategies, raising global awareness about the catastrophic consequences of nuclear conflicts. Future diplomacy could support international educational campaigns, utilizing media, academic collaborations, and digital platforms to disseminate knowledge about nuclear risks and the importance of disarmament. These efforts can create a well-informed global citizenry that actively supports diplomatic resolutions over military confrontations. In closing, the path forward requires an intricate combination of strengthened treaties, advanced cybersecurity measures, sustained dialogue, regional cooperation, involvement of non-state actors, and educational initiatives. As we advance, these multifaceted diplomatic strategies offer a blueprint for preventing nuclear escalation and achieving long-term global peace. The complexity of the task is evident, but with cooperation from all global actors, peace and stability remain attainable objectives. Chapter 11. Preparedness Education and Public Awareness. Preparedness education and public awareness serve as crucial pillars in mitigating the risks associated with nuclear threats. In an era where global tensions can escalate rapidly, equipping the public with the knowledge and skills to navigate such crises becomes more than just a civic duty. It transforms into a collective societal responsibility. History has shown us that preparedness can significantly reduce panic and enhance survival outcomes. But the challenge lies in disseminating this information effectively and engaging the populace meaningfully. Community resilience starts with education. Public training programs tailored to address the specific needs of diverse communities can play a pivotal role. While some might assume that such training requires highly specialized knowledge, the reality is that basic preparedness techniques can empower individuals and families. These programs can cover a range of topics from creating emergency kits to understanding evacuation routes. In cities and small towns alike, schools, local governments, and community organizations can collaborate to organize workshops and drills, ensuring that when an emergency arises, responses are swift and informed. Public awareness campaigns are just as crucial. Messaging strategies must recognize cultural differences, language barriers, and socioeconomic factors to be effective. Remember the straightforward tips of the past, like stop, drop, and roll. These simple, memorable messages continue to illustrate how clear communication can save lives. Today, leveraging social media platforms can amplify the reach and impact of preparedness information, making it accessible to a broad audience. Yet digital tools alone aren't enough. Public service announcements on traditional media, combined with grassroots efforts, can help reach those offline or in rural settings. Empathy plays a critical role in these endeavors. Preparedness education that acknowledges and respects individual concerns fosters a sense of trust and community. It's not just about imparting knowledge, it's about understanding fears and addressing them directly. Take, for instance, tailored programs for families with small children or elderly members. These groups have unique needs and concerns that standard emergency planning might overlook. By addressing these specific considerations, we build a culture of inclusion and care that strengthens community bonds. While governments and organizations lay the foundation, individual participation is the bedrock of preparedness education. Engaged citizens not only learn for themselves but share knowledge, creating a ripple effect throughout their communities. Encouraging this involvement requires shifting the narrative from passive awareness to active participation. People who engage become ambassadors of preparedness, equipped to advise and assist others once threats arise. It's a cycle of education that continuously feeds back into society, ensuring everyone is well informed and ready. In the face of nuclear threats, complacency is not an option. While the complexities of international politics and technological defenses are significant, they must be paralleled by robust educational endeavors at the grassroots level. Preparedness education and public awareness are proactive measures, a commitment to safeguarding the future through informed engagement today. By fostering a well-informed, resilient society, we don't just react to threats, we stand prepared to meet them with courage and unity. Role of public training programs. In the shadow of nuclear threats, the role of public training programs takes on a significance that can't be overstated. These programs are not merely about imparting knowledge, they're about empowering individuals and communities. Preparedness education aims to transform fear into proactive resilience, equipping people with the skills and confidence needed to navigate potential crises. The challenging reality is that a nuclear event, while still a remote possibility, demands vigilance and readiness at both the governmental and civilian levels. Public training programs serve as a vital bridge between governmental emergency plans and civilian execution. The government strategies are intricate and often steeped in technical jargon. Transforming this into understandable and actionable steps for the general public is crucial. Through well-designed training sessions, ordinary citizens can learn how to protect themselves and assist others, reducing panic and chaos in moments of crisis. Nevertheless, successful public training programs require more than just practical instructions. They demand continuous engagement and innovation to remain relevant. One of the primary challenges is keeping the public interested in training that addresses scenarios they hope will never occur. Thus, the approach to training must be engaging, relatable, and adaptable. Diverse methods such as community workshops, online simulations, and interactive emergency drills can cater to varied learning preferences, ensuring that everyone gains valuable insights, irrespective of their background. It's essential to acknowledge the cultural and psychological barriers that might hinder participation in these programs. In some communities, discussing nuclear threats can conjure fear or skepticism. Public training programs must therefore incorporate empathy and cultural sensitivity to break down these defenses. This approach can help foster a culture of preparedness without reliance on the sensationalism that can often accompany discussions of nuclear threats. By emphasizing community over crisis, training programs can inspire collective participation and shared responsibility. Moreover, partnerships between governmental bodies and local organizations can enhance the reach and effectiveness of public training programs. Local organizations often have a better understanding of community dynamics and concerns. By working together, they can tailor training content to address specific local needs, making it more relevant and impactful. This collaboration can also aid in building trust with the community, which is essential for successful implementation and participation. One shouldn't underestimate the power of education in demystifying the complexities surrounding nuclear preparedness. Such programs can clarify misconceptions and provide a realistic understanding of potential scenarios. This clarity not only prepares individuals psychologically but also reduces misinformation, which is often as dangerous as the threat itself. Transparency and straightforward communication are key components in fostering trust and ensuring that preparedness becomes part of the community's routine, rather than just an occasional concern. Ultimately, the role of public training programs extends beyond immediate preparedness. They're instrumental in shaping resilient communities that can adapt and thrive amid uncertainties. By fostering a sense of agency and empowerment, these programs contribute to a society that is not only prepared for the worst but also capable of contributing to preventative measures. Individuals trained in such programs are more likely to engage in broader dialogues about peace and diplomacy, understanding that preparedness doesn't just start in the aftermath of conflict but is rooted in preemptive actions and informed societal choices. Therefore, in our quest to face nuclear threats, public training programs stand as a cornerstone of comprehensive preparedness education. Improving community resilience. In an era where the specter of nuclear threats looms large, cultivating community resilience becomes paramount. The notion of resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about anticipating challenges, adapting to them, and emerging even stronger. With the unpredictability of global politics and the inherent risks linked with nuclear capabilities, communities worldwide are tasked with an imperative to enhance their resilience through informed preparedness and mutual cooperation. Resilience in communities transcends the capabilities of individual preparedness. It's about creating a collective strength, a tapestry woven from trust, knowledge, and shared resources. This kind of resilience acknowledges both the interconnectedness and interdependencies of the modern world. Individuals are encouraged to become more aware of their roles, but the broader community must facilitate an infrastructure that supports and educates everyone. This creates a ripple effect where prepared communities foster a more resilient society. One of the fundamental pillars of building resilient communities lies in education and public awareness. It's about understanding the potential threats and having a clear action plan tailored to fit different scenarios. Comprehensive preparedness education provides community members with the tools they need to respond effectively to nuclear emergencies. It involves training programs that educate not only on immediate safety measures, but also on long-term strategies to sustain societal function during protracted crises. Public awareness campaigns can be powerful in transforming communities. When well executed, these campaigns inform citizens about nuclear risks, offer vital survival strategies, and most importantly, dispel misinformation that often leads to fear and panic. Effective communication systems ensure that reliable and life-saving information is accessible and understandable to everyone regardless of age, language, or social standing. An essential aspect of resilience is fostering strong local networks. It's about neighbors knowing and trusting one another, local leadership stepping up to guide, and creating community-based support systems. When people have confidence in their leadership and connect with those around them, a shared sense of purpose and responsibility is developed. This local network becomes the backbone of community resilience, providing the first line of support and communication in any emergency situation. Regular community drills and workshops serve as practical exercises in resilience building. These events not only teach fundamental skills such as identifying safe zones, using protective gear, or proper evacuation procedures, but also encourage community bonding. When neighbors practice these together, they build a collective muscle memory that can be activated during actual crises. The shared experiences from these drills can significantly reduce chaos and confusion when every second counts. Innovation has a substantial role to play in improving community resilience. Technologies can streamline communication, reporting, and resource distribution during crises. Platforms or apps that allow for real-time updates, virtual coordination, and resource mapping can transform the efficiency of emergency response. Communities that leverage technology are better positioned to bridge the gap between preparedness and actual response, ultimately reducing the inevitable lag between the two. While external resources and national efforts are vital, empowering local communities to create self-sufficient systems is equally crucial. Resilience isn't just a canned response or a static plan, but a dynamic and evolving process. Communities need the flexibility to adapt their strategies based on changing circumstances or new information about potential threats. By prioritizing grassroots efforts and encouraging innovative local solutions, resilience becomes a customized, rather than a generic, response. The government's role in enhancing community resilience cannot be overstated. Policies and resources must be directed toward local government agencies and civil service organizations that focus on nuclear safety and preparedness. Building partnerships between governmental bodies, nonprofit organizations, and private entities introduces a comprehensive and cooperative approach that strengthens the overall safety net. When crises do arise, the psychological well-being of community members is just as critical as physical safety. Resilient communities understand this balance and promote initiatives that address mental health, stress management, and emotional support. Training programs should incorporate modules that teach psychological first aid and peer support strategies, creating a community ethic that prioritizes empathy and understanding. Ultimately, improving community resilience in the face of nuclear threats involves a multifaceted approach. It requires a concerted effort from individuals, local organizations, and national systems working in harmony to protect and sustain life. Education and public awareness are indispensable in this endeavor. When communities are educated, informed, and united, they can withstand the challenges posed by the ever-present global nuclear risk, standing tall amid uncertainty with a collective resolve that is both inspiring and essential. Chapter 12. Technological Advancements in Defense. Modern warfare has always been shaped by technology, and defense strategies have evolved alongside these advancements. In the realm of nuclear threats, Staying ahead of technological progress is not just advantageous, it's essential for survival. The balance of power is continually tested by the emergence of new defense mechanisms designed to protect nations against the ever-looming specter of nuclear conflict. The development in missile defense systems stands as a paramount priority. Improving the speed and accuracy with which missiles can be detected and intercepted is crucial. Technologies such as radar systems, satellite tracking, and artificial intelligence (AI) have revolutionized our capacity to detect threats. By leveraging AI to predict missile trajectories and integrating it with satellite-based infrared detection systems, accuracy has been notably enhanced, providing countries with a reliable first line of defense. Of particular note is the progress in kinetic energy interceptors, which seek to neutralize incoming missiles not through explosions but via high-speed impact. These interceptors, capable of shattering an incoming missile with direct contact, significantly reduce the risk of detonation and radioactive fallout upon interception. This ability to hit a bullet with a bullet represents a monumental shift in defense technology, emphasizing precision over brute force. Meanwhile, the arena of cybersecurity holds equal significance in modern defense strategies. As nations increasingly depend on interconnected systems to coordinate their defense mechanisms, the potential for cyber attacks presents a new layer of vulnerability. These attacks can disrupt communications, disable crucial defense systems, and even mislead defense operations through misinformation. Thus, cybersecurity measures against nuclear threats have become a principal focus area, incorporating strategies such as real-time network monitoring, advanced encryption protocols, and sophisticated firewalls to protect critical infrastructure. The attempts to secure cyberspace reflect an understanding that in modern conflict, physical and digital domains are tightly interwoven. Governments are investing in technologies that not only safeguard communication systems but also create resilient networks that can operate independently in case parts of the infrastructure are compromised. Cyber warfare preparedness involves creating redundant pathways for sending and receiving information, ensuring that the command remains unified even in tumultuous scenarios. Emerging technologies like quantum computing are poised to further redefine these strategies. Quantum encryption offers potentially unbreakable methods for securing communications, thanks to the principles of quantum mechanics. Combining this with existing technologies could usher in a new era of secure communication channels immune to traditional hacking techniques. Additionally, artificial intelligence continues to play an increasingly crucial role in predicting and responding to potential threats. Machine learning algorithms can process vast amounts of data much faster than human analysts ever could, identifying patterns and suggesting preemptive measures. This capability enhances military preparedness by providing detailed assessments of potential threats and suggesting appropriate countermeasures in real time. Autonomous drones and unmanned vehicles offer further strides in defense innovation. These devices can be deployed for reconnaissance missions, providing valuable data without risking personnel. Equipped with advanced sensors and AI, they can monitor vast areas, detect anomalies, and respond accordingly, significantly expanding a nation's ability to defend its airspace and borders. Yet, these advancements bring ethical questions to the forefront. The reliance on automated systems and AI raises concerns about accountability, decision-making, and the potential for malfunction. As these technologies develop, policymakers and military leaders need to consider these issues and establish regulations that address the ethical use of advanced defense technologies. The integration of these technologies represents a concerted effort to close the gap between offensive capabilities and defensive resilience. It acknowledges the dynamic nature of global threats and embraces innovation as a necessary path to safeguarding nations. Understanding and advancing technology is no longer enough. It must be continuously honed and adapted to remain effective against shifting threats. As we look towards the future, international cooperation in defense technology may become imperative. Shared intelligence, joint development projects, and unified defense strategies might offer greater security against nuclear threats than isolated initiatives. By fostering collaborations that bridge technological and national boundaries, there is potential for a more cohesive and comprehensive approach to global defense. Ultimately, The future of technological advancements in defense rests on the delicate balance between pushing the boundaries of what's possible and maintaining the ethical standards that govern their use. The path forward is one of collaboration, continued innovation, and a vigilant understanding of the potentiated risks and rewards. As technology evolves, so must our strategies in using it wisely and responsibly. Innovations in missile defense. As the geopolitical landscape becomes ever more complex, significant strides in missile defense are reshaping how nations perceive and prepare for potential threats. Over the last few decades, missile defense technology has evolved rapidly, providing new layers of security and strategic options. Advances in radar and satellite systems have enhanced detection capabilities, allowing for quicker response times to impending threats. This sort of early detection is crucial for effective defense, especially when the stakes are nuclear. One of the groundbreaking innovations in missile defense is the development of kinetic kill vehicles. These systems aim to neutralize threats by physically colliding with incoming missiles. Unlike traditional explosive warheads, these interceptors use sheer velocity to destroy their targets in space. Not only does this eliminate the threat at its core, but it also reduces the likelihood of collateral damage upon interception. The integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning into missile defense systems marks a substantial shift in military strategy. These technologies allow for better tracking and predictive analysis of potential threats, making automated adjustments in real time. AI's ability to process vast amounts of data quickly ensures that defense mechanisms are versatile and adaptive in dynamic situations. Directed energy weapons, such as high-energy lasers, also offer promising capabilities for future missile defense. These systems aim to disable or destroy incoming threats with pinpoint accuracy and minimal response time, providing a near-instantaneous barrier against attacks. Although these technologies are still being refined, their potential to change the landscape of modern warfare cannot be underestimated. While these innovations carry immense promise, they also provoke a set of ethical and strategic questions. As nations race to develop and deploy these advanced systems, the balance of power continues to shift, presenting both opportunities and challenges for future diplomacy and global security. Cybersecurity measures against nuclear threats. In an era where digital technology dominates nearly every aspect of life, the defense sector, too, has seen a transformation powered by bytes and binary code. With the rise of sophisticated cyber threats, ensuring the security of nuclear arsenals has taken on a new level of urgency. As such, the world stands at the precipice of a revolutionary shift where cybersecurity measures are not just supplemental, but foundational to preventing nuclear threat. This shift underscores the integration of technological and strategic innovation, weaving together traditional defense mechanisms with modern digital armor. One of the most pressing concerns is that nuclear systems, historically safeguarded through physical security measures, are now vulnerable to cyber intrusions. These systems rely heavily on digital networks for command and control operations, making them potential targets for disruptive cyber attacks. The vulnerability lies not just in the possibility of unauthorized access, but in the potential for an attacker to manipulate data or obstruct critical communications during a crisis. Here, cybersecurity emerges as the silent sentinel, tasked with ensuring the integrity and reliability of these vital systems. Securing the myriad of complex systems involves more than just reinforcing firewalls and encrypting data. It's about creating a resilient infrastructure that can anticipate, detect, and mitigate cyber threats before they materialize. Governments and defense agencies are investing heavily in cybersecurity infrastructure, deploying advanced techniques in artificial intelligence and machine learning to predict potential threats. These technologies serve to monitor network activities in real time, providing an additional layer of defense by identifying unusual patterns indicative of a cyber intrusion. Moreover, cybersecurity and defense isn't exclusively about preventing external attacks. Insider threats are equally critical and represent a significant risk to nuclear security. Ensuring comprehensive background checks while continuously monitoring employees' digital activity can mitigate these risks. Behavioral analytics come into play here, using algorithms to detect deviations from normal user behavior, potentially flagging malicious activity before it becomes a tangible threat. This intricate dance between technology and strategy also extends to international collaboration. Global cooperation plays a crucial role in understanding and countering cyber threats targeting nuclear security. Dialogue among nations, alongside shared intelligence, can enhance the effectiveness of cybersecurity measures. This calls for establishing international norms and agreements, similar to arms control treaties, but focused on cyberspace. Despite these advancements, challenges remain. One prominent challenge is the inherently dynamic nature of cyber threats. As defenses improve, so do the tactics of adversaries. This cat-and-mouse game necessitates continuous innovation and adaptation. Recent initiatives emphasize creating security architectures that are not only robust, but also flexible, capable of evolving in response to emerging threats. An area of significant progress is the simulation of potential cyber attack scenarios on nuclear command and control systems. These exercises test the resilience of systems and help refine strategies to deal with actual threats should they occur. Such simulations foster an environment of proactive security, allowing agencies to anticipate potential attack vectors and prepare accordingly. The conversation around cybersecurity and nuclear threats is as much about prevention as it is about improving response strategies. Exercises focusing on rapid response to cyber incidents help ensure that in the event of a breach, systems can quickly recover, maintaining operational integrity. Redundancy, backup protocols, and decentralized control measures ensure that even if one part of the system is compromised, it doesn't lead to an uncontrolled escalation. In conclusion, the role of cybersecurity in defense against nuclear threats is indispensable and multifaceted. It requires not only robust technology and vigilant monitoring, but also a collaborative spirit across national borders. The convergence of cybersecurity and nuclear defense signifies a shift towards a future where digital defenses play a critical role in maintaining peace. As technology continues to evolve, so too must our approaches to safeguarding the nuclear realities of our world, ensuring that they remain, above all, a deterrent and not a scourge. Conclusion. Nuclear tensions, though a grim topic, compel us to examine the precarity of our existence and the false sense of security that globalization sometimes surfaces. As our journey through the pages of this book has shown, the specter of nuclear conflict is not a relic of Cold War paranoia, but a looming concern with threads woven into the fabric of our modern world. So where does that leave us as inhabitants of a planet whose fate can hinge on a diplomatic brush-off or a misunderstood signal? Understanding the historical context of nuclear tensions allows us to appreciate the delicate dance of diplomacy and deterrence. We've come to see that nuclear capabilities have grown not just in number but in sophistication. This evolution is a reminder of the ongoing arms race, driven by technological advancements and the strategic maneuvering of key players. It's plain to see that the landscape of nuclear politics is complex, with each nation playing its part in a global chess game where the stakes are existential. Deterrence, for all its critics, remains a cornerstone of nuclear strategy. The principle of mutually assured destruction may seem paradoxical, maintaining peace through the promise of annihilation. Yet, its historical success offers a fragile reassurance. Cases where deterrence has failed, therefore, serve as dire warnings. These episodes underscore the consequences of miscalculations and the inherent unreliability of strategies rooted in human decision-making. In recognizing the vulnerabilities in national security frameworks, particularly concerning actors like North Korea, we gain clarity on the challenges. The advancements in North Korea's missile technology and the sometimes slow adaptation of U.S. defense mechanisms highlight systemic weaknesses that shouldn't be ignored. It's these cracks that demand our attention and call for robust improvements and innovations. The hypothetical scenario of a first strike paints a chilling picture of modern warfare's opening act. Its potential impact on military command and the unfolding timeline compels a reevaluation of our readiness. This dark possibility draws attention to the essential nature of government emergency procedures. However, amid protocols and communications infrastructure, we find that information dissemination can quickly devolve into chaos, underlining the importance of well-honed systems. For civilians, the thought of a nuclear conflict is terrifying. Public reaction skews wildly between panic and disbelief, Yet it's imperative to focus on preparedness. Survival strategies tailored for urban environments offer a glimpse into practical steps individuals and communities can take. It's here that we emphasize action rooted in awareness and training. The capacity to weather such a storm not only rests in preparedness, but in resilience. Communities are stronger when bound by knowledge and resolve. Nuclear winter scenarios and environmental consequences extend beyond immediate human tragedy. The potential ecological devastation reminds us that nuclear conflict isn't just a human issue, it's a global one. The aftermath would ripple through ecosystems, impacting species, climates, and ultimately, the planet's ability to sustain life as we know it. It serves as a somber reminder of our interconnectedness and the wide-reaching repercussions of what might be perceived as isolated geopolitical maneuvers. From an economic standpoint, the disruption to global markets and trade would be catastrophic. An intricate web of supply chains and economic relations would unravel, demanding both immediate and strategic responses for recovery. It's critical to contemplate these scenarios and develop resilient strategies to mitigate and recover from such profound disruptions. International reactions would surely reshape alliances and global dynamics. The role of entities like NATO would be scrutinized and perhaps redefined. Shifts in international relations would demand renegotiation of partnerships and a re-examination of foreign policies. History shows us that alliances can pivot on crisis points, and a nuclear incident would be a seismic catalyst. While this narrative may invoke dread, it is not without hope. Preventive strategies, shaped by past peace efforts and diplomatic initiatives, draw out paths toward de-escalation. The stories of those who dared to strive for peace amid the tumult demonstrate that progress is possible. The resolute force of diplomacy and dialogue remains our greatest asset against the specter of nuclear war. Education and public awareness are vital in this landscape, empowering individuals and communities to be stakeholders in their destinies. Programs focusing on preparedness and resilience must transcend theory and become actionable parts of the societal framework. Knowledge, after all, is the bedrock of empowerment, fortifying us against the unknown. Technological advancements, whether in missile defense or cybersecurity, represent the cutting edge in the fight against nuclear threats. Yet they also remind us of the dual nature of technology. Each advancement must be wielded with foresight and caution, for it could as easily be our peril as our protection. In closing, these reflections chart not just the challenges we face, but the opportunities for change and growth. The stakes could not be higher, but through informed, empathetic, and coordinated action, a future devoid of nuclear conflict remains within reach. What we've explored is not just an examination of threats, but a call to action for peace, for understanding, and for a concerted effort to secure a safer world.